Sound check. Am I streaming? Is this thing on? I almost forgot. I almost forgot. Oh. Good luck and Godspeed. Finishing the editing projects that I must. I'm just gonna Whoops. Oh my goodness. The weather is not looking good anymore. As you can see here, we just saw like a little blurriness coming in onto the Orion Nebula, M42. And how do I know I'm looking at M42, you might ask? Plate solving. We open up the picture we took in this application. It does some number crunching, and then we ask it to allow us to kindly browse the solved image. And the magic of plate solving is really cool. What it does is it identifies the constellations in a photograph, the points of light, and based on the pattern or constellation, it'll correlate that data with an existing sky map. And as you can see, it can draw grid lines to represent our equatorial axis, and it can draw circles around major objects. So in this case, it's got a circle going around M43, which is this little guy here that you can barely see. We'll zoom in on M43 a little bit. and M43 sits directly next to M42, which is labeled by the large green circle. And in fact, if we increase our exposure time on the camera, we will be able to see more of M42. And since the weather is deteriorating, and in fact it's not so much deteriorating as it is that the angle is terrible. Unfortunately, I don't really have I didn't set up my surveillance camera yet to be easily visible on my computer screen. It's probably really trivial, but for now I'll just flash you my phone screen. Where do we go here? Hang on. Here we are. Alright. Give me full screen. Okay. So as you can see here, my telescope is pointing at a pretty shallow angle. Like, it's not pointing straight up. It's almost at like a 90-degree angle. I mean, it's not 90 degrees, but I guess that's 0 degrees. Well, we're cutting through a lot of atmosphere. Oh God. Yeah, we're shooting through a lot of atmosphere, so the weather might be fine, but oh, my camera's crooked. The weather might be fine, but if there's a lot of atmosphere, I mean, you know, physics is physics, air is air. We can maybe stare at Betelgeuse for a little while if we want to, look at a star. And we can see this is M42, the Orion Nebula, because you got the little constellation lines next to it. And you might be seeing two sets of grid lines, so I'm going to go ahead and toggle them. Oh, darn it. Where are my manners? Here we are. As I was saying, we're cutting through a lot of atmosphere. Now, this is not a real photograph of my, area, but at some point I really should apply an existing photograph to, create the correct backdrop here. But it gives you a general idea of that. If you were in a field and you had a tree over here, you would already be blocking your view. And I can even press the button, I think. Yeah, oh, yeah, there we go. So if this is the atmosphere enabled, and as you can see, there's a little bit of shifting going on, and when you're dealing with planetary imaging, this can affect the way colors hit your sensor. And one of the tricks we do is we sometimes use an atmospheric dispersion corrector. It's a pair of prisms that bend the light. Pain in the butt to use, or pain in the butt to learn how to use one, but that's why we're shooting in black and white. We're actually getting color in black and white, and earlier in this session I clicked on these buttons right here. Oh, that's a cloud. And I disabled my system sound. I mean, I could turn it on, but my computer started beeping at me, and I'll show you why. This is the auto guiding. So on the back of my telescope, you got a baby telescope. And I got clearer photographs, but for reference, you can see the little tiny scope up top. That is the auto guider. And the auto guider, or auto guiding scope, does exactly what we think it does. It guides the main scope. Now, but jokes aside, hang on, I want to get the chat room up, even though nobody. Oh, cool! Punk Waddle is in the house. All right. What's up, Punk Waddle? Yeah. So basically, I'm testing this out. I did 2 other streams already, and I basically goosed up the bit rate to improve the quality. But right now, I was just working with the star map. I'm about to pick a new target, so I know you gotta be up early tomorrow, so I'll make it snappy. We're gonna do the Whirlpool Galaxy, if we can find it. Not Whirlgig. Yeah, there we go. And all I gotta do is press Control 1. Oh, why is the software yelling at me? Oh, yeah, because this doesn't like it when you start moving, because it's depending upon, you know, it expects the star not to move drastically. Well, and it looks like we've already begun slewing. Wait, we didn't start slewing. Why not? Huh. Oh, hang on. What's going on here? Horizon limit. Okay. So we're gonna hit the park button, and essentially the mount is gonna begin parking. I can't see myself. Yeah. There it is. You can see that mount moving right here. It's straightening out. It's going to the park position where it's gonna point forward. I really gotta set this up so I can patch in the video from the outside camera. And there we go. Now we're pointing at Polaris. And for anybody who questions the roundness of the planet, Polaris resides over here. And I don't know, it's really hard to be on a flat planet if this works the way it does. But that's another topic for another video. So anyway, we're going to do Whirlpool. But yeah, man, you know, you can always watch the review, or if I get any interesting pictures, I'll be sure to share them somewhere. Most of the time, I end up getting a lot of crappy photographs. And, you know, usually bad weather will roll in and ruin it. Alright, so we're going to pick our target. We just pressed Control 1. And if I did this correctly, these numbers, yep, there we go. Those numbers are moving. My scope is pointing at the target, or it's beginning to point. And let's see here. But yeah, if you're still here, this might be worth taking a look at if it works. Although I wouldn't hold my breath. I would say if you got to be up early, don't hold your breath waiting for this target to come into view. And this is normal. I was kind of panning through the clouds and whatnot, so yeah, you're gonna get a lot of noise on your timed exposures. And how do we want to do this here? We can wait 2 minutes for it to complete an exposure. You know what? I'm gonna do a shortcut because I'm not expecting high quality anyway. We're gonna do 2x2 binning. This will double the size of every pixel, and by doubling the size of the pixel, we'll capture more photons. Okay. And how do I do this? Alright. There should be a Whirlpool Galaxy somewhere in this neighborhood. Alrighty, let's see if we can see it here. We're gonna take the guide scope, the miniature scope on the back of the big boy. Yo, by the way, this YouTuber named Prince Zhao, yo, he's funny, yo. Prince Jazao, J-A-Z-A-O. If you want to watch a gaming stream, this guy's a riot. I was introduced to him by Loki and his Mornings of Mischief stream like days ago. He was like, check out my boy. And he's alright, yo. This guy's alright. Okay, so now I've goosed up the brightness. I've goosed up the gain. Okay, 2-second exposures on my baby scope. I see nothing. I don't see nothing. Aw, bummer. That could be a function of cloud cover or a function of me not pointing at the correct target. Let's see, we're going to goose up our gain a little bit. Yeah, I hear you, man. You don't want to hold your breath for real. And actually, I hear it's impossible. If you hold your breath for too long and you pass out, autonomic functions kick in automatically. But I digress. Yeah, so yesterday, I might even have a picture of this nebula from yesterday here. So let's take a look if we can find, because we set it to a 30-second exposure. So the camera's going to basically take a tan or soak in the light for like 30 seconds before showing me a picture. But there's something I got to take up with the nerds on the astronomy forum. Basically, if I set my camera for a 10-second exposure, I gotta wait 20 seconds before I see the first image. And then after that, it only takes 10 seconds for each subsequent frame. Ah, here we are. Okay, so this is normal here. You're going to see a lot of graininess in this shot, but that's because this is like a super duper ultra raw image, and for lack of a better term, but you can kind of see faint whirly pools here. I might be able to trick this software into showing me more, and hell, we might. Yeah, I don't see nothing here. What the heck? Oh, here it is. I can see it. See that faint crap on the top right corner? This is totally normal. Sometimes you'll be way off target and you just got to manually adjust your target. So the easiest way for me to do this is to make sure I match up 1 and 2 here, 1 and 2 here. Okay, this is going to be a little confusing because my guide scope is, I think, upside down compared to my main scope or my main camera, so I should really go and flip the camera over next time I do go outside. But we need to get this into the center of our frame here, and we need to also goose up our exposure time. So we're gonna take a gamble here. I believe if I press south, everything's gonna go, oops, like it's gonna go left, and we're gonna increase the speed. Right ascension, east-west, is basically going from west to east, or east to west actually. You know, sunrise, sunset. North and south, that's our declination. So what we do is we already started moving it, but we need to see if we got any star trails. If I did it correctly, in fact, we'll give it about 20 seconds. In 20 seconds, or actually 17, 14, 16, 15, we're going to have star trails. And either those star trails are going to be going left or right. And okay, good. We're making progress. So I'm going to keep going south, because now the Whirlpool Galaxy is over here. And so we're going to go a little more south. And then before I press the east-west button, I'm going to check the star map, I guess. So yeah, I just redid the alignment. It was pretty good, but sometimes you'll pick an object in a different quadrant of your sky and you'll have to manually recenter it. Now that automatic plate solving magic is supposed to remedy that. And how it, oh god, I just moved the mount at like warp speed, so now it's gonna jump a lot on the eastern, and it's gonna jump east a lot. So this may not be a big deal. I only held the button down for 2 seconds. You see the whirlies? Yeah, dude, that Zhao guy, he's off the hook. I mean, he's all right, really. I think I'm gonna enjoy his content, and he's an inspiration because I mean, that's how I'd like to play. In fact, I recorded a couple of streams that I didn't stream, just kind of testing things out. And yeah, I mean, he knows how to have a good time. Take it from me, I know. So let's see here. I'm trying. Okay, good. So I pressed east and it jumped a little bit, but not too much. So now we're going to go a bit more. We're moving at a rate of 11. No, that's a speed for the stepper motor. And, you know, like I said, I don't want to lower the exposure time at this point, because if I do, I have to wait an additional 30 seconds, and, you know, I think I can wing it. Wait, did it go up? I hope it went down. I should probably just goose down the exposure time and take my chances. But let's see, where's the whirlpool here? And you can see it's drifting quite a bit here because we didn't enable auto guiding yet, and because of backlash. When the gears have a little bit of slippage or whatever, it takes a few seconds for it to catch up. In general, the motor is always going from east to west because, of course, the Earth is rotating. And so when we're facing the northern sky, the telescope is sort of aiming like that. I'm going to go and switch. That's a little confusing, isn't it? Hang on. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So essentially now, I'm looking at the northern sky. The telescope is pointing at Whirlpool. We're going to fast forward. So the mount is always moving. The equatorial mount is always rotating at the same speed as the Earth's rotation. This is just sped up. And whether I'm facing north or south, and as you can see, if we're looking south, you'll notice that the equatorial grid is not really completely visible because it's being blocked by the rest of the planet. And of course, if I face the ground, like I look through the ground here, I'm technically looking at the celestial South Pole. So if I was standing on Antarctica, this would be directly over my head. If I was in Australia, it might be at a 40-degree angle. But my point being is, going back north, that part of the sky there is at a 40-degree angle because I'm at a 40-degree latitude where I'm at. But, what I mean by 40-degree angle is, let's get the altitude grid up. So now, in this mode, there's an imaginary dome over my head. And Polaris is at a 40-something degree angle right over here. And you can even see the numbers will sort of line up. It'll say like 40 degrees. 41 degrees. So if I was in, once again, Antarctica, the North Pole, where Snortopus cubura lives, then Polaris would be 90 degrees overhead. But since the more south you go, the lower that star becomes, and it's a very important star. In fact, earlier I was having a lot of issues with tracking targets. I had to realign the polar alignment against this object in order to be able to aim straight. And where is it now? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm reacquiring the target. Alright. Huh. Looks like it's moving a lot more than expected. Was I off target? Uh-oh. I might have been way off target here. Alright, we want to see this. We want to see a faint image of this. Okay, and it's over here. We got it here. And this time we're running at 7.5 second exposures, but we're going to reduce our exposure time. We're going to just kind of eyeball it. I'm going to make, like, okay, I can do this now. So we're going to start by moving south, and I'm going to get this closer to my center. Okay, good. That's in the center of my screen now. We're gonna go... okay, good, I see it. I still see it. I'm gonna put the crosshair here. And... we're gonna go east and bring it down. Yeah, like, I mean, look, I don't mind people thinking that the Earth is flat. In fact, it's kind of cool that some people are willing to think out of the box like that. I can respect that if they genuinely are trying to get to the bottom of things. That's what I screwed up on. I should have gone west. Okay, good. Now we know. So, because of the long exposure time, I was going east instead of west. I should have been going west. But, like, I talk to people on Reddit. I meet people in YouTube comments, and I'm just like, I mean, polar alignment. Explain polar alignment. Like, I have to do polar alignment. It took me a month. Look, I'm a believer in the globe. I'm a globe-tard, and it took me like a month to understand polar alignment. It should have been much easier to understand, but despite me thinking I'm knowledgeable, it still took me a month. So, of course, I expect a flat earther who doesn't even want to believe any of that crap to not understand it. But if they did, if they can understand it and still debunk the roundness of the planet, that would go a long way in getting me to listen to them more closely. But, I've converted one flat earther out of like maybe 3 people, 4 people I know in real life. 2 I speak to on a semi-regular basis, or one of them I speak regularly to. I got that one friend converted. I mean, I'm sure he did it on his own too, but the trick was to not be a dick. I was just like talking to him, and other people on Facebook were rude. But I'm like, if I was him, I would double down on flat earth if everyone was being a dick about it. Just out of principle, like, screw everyone. But, he was cool with me. Like, I showed him a picture of Jupiter. I said, well, look, I mean, this is Jupiter. It's over here. I really don't see how Jupiter can have 4 visible moons and behave the way it does. Whoops. Okay, I still see the target. And behave the way it does if we're on a flat planet. Why would Jupiter not be round and all of this? And he counters and says, well, why is it so bright when you zoom out? And it's true. Jupiter is obscenely bright when you zoom out from it. Not obscene, but it is very bright. And there's a perfectly good explanation for this. And I did have to look it up at the time. I kind of had like a general inkling. Oh, I got about that documentary. But in conclusion, what happens in telescopes, we have these devices. They're like lenses that make the image wider, called focal reducers. All right, real quick, the whirlpools are right here. So now we're gonna goose up our exposure time. We're gonna do 60 seconds. I don't know if I should do this in narrow band or red, but it's a tough decision here. We might overexpose it, but worst case scenario, we'll switch. Problem is, it's going to take about 2 minutes. 2 minutes for this to work. So, yeah, and I'm going to goose down the gain setting a little bit because, but once the 2 minutes goes by, it'll only take 1 additional minute. But, yeah, so, basically, when you, have, like, you zoom in on something bright, if you take something dim, and you zoom out on it, you have the same amount of light, but now it's hitting a smaller part of the image sensor. So you end up you're not really making it brighter, you're concentrating the same amount of photons on a smaller spot. And so that's how we use focal reducers to make things brighter and also get a wider field of view. In the case of Jupiter, if you're looking at it from afar, it looks really bright. But when you magnify it, or instead of zooming, you're essentially making your field of view narrower. You're taking that same bright amount of photons and you're spreading it over a wider area on your eyeball, retina, or image sensor. So it looks dimmer as you zoom in, but it's a little weird, but once you kind of see it in action, it makes sense. And beyond that, Jupiter's crazy bright because it's got a lot of clouds. It's called a high albedo, high reflectivity. But yo, this Flat Earth documentary. I mean, I've seen parts of it, mainly like I see a lot of the, you know, pro-science YouTubers. Some of them are cool, some of them are rude. But some of the pro-science YouTubers are nice people, you know, hit or miss. But all of them do raise a valid point. They showed a funny scene where the guy is saying that he wants to prove the Earth is not spinning, or that it's not a spinning sphere, by using a laser gyroscope. So one of the fan club members gets this $20,000 or $15,000 device, maybe it was $10,000, a laser gyroscope, and they test it out, they put it down, like, let it run, and they go, oh, it's getting a measurement of 15 degrees per hour. And so instead of going, that goes a long way, and maybe showing that maybe the Earth really is spinning, they double down. They're like, oh, well, there must be something wrong with the laser gyroscope. There must be interference. There must be some other problem, you know. And so, you know, it's like, you know, some of them may be serious, some of them may be charlatans, but I mean, I think the guy who believed that it was gonna work, that the experiment was gonna prove his point, I think he believes what he's talking about. But then the other shaky footage, I mean, people will, like I had a customer when I worked at Best Buy, and, you know, young Mexican-American, was he American? Oh, cool. Yeah, we got spirals. All right, we're going to zoom in and I'm going to switch to hydrogen. So he, you know, nice kid, teenager, young adult, and he goes, yeah, you can barely see it because, you know, it's very washed out. We got some, I think, haze rolling in, but you do see the 2 dots and the 2 faint swirls, and sometimes we can process this out. Oh, and I made a mistake. We forgot to engage auto guiding, so in fact, it may not even be worthwhile to switch to hydrogen yet. We may just yet. Good, I didn't. I forgot to switch to hydrogen. Apparently, I didn't click the button. But anyway, now this program will track a star. That is our primary guide star. It calculates the center of the star, and then it tries to keep it centered. And every I should have made it shorter. Well, every 2 seconds, it's going to send a corrective pulse to keep things on track. I think I'm going to go ahead and reduce it to like half a second, and maybe we'll pick 1 star. I don't know. I feel like I should pick 1 star. Alright, we're going to do 1 star tracking. So, no overlay. So yeah, basically that's our guide star. We're going to keep it centered. And this graph will show us, you know, how hard it's working. And in the beginning, it's going to work harder, but hopefully it's going to settle down. Oh, I think we got cloud cover. What the heck? Oh, yeah. Didn't I click that button? Anyway, chat. Tchaikovsky. Is that the author or the musician? Oh, okay, now I'm thinking about some other Tchaikovsky. There was this guy, I think his name was Adrian Tchaikovsky, and he wrote a book about space spiders. Well, a little more complex than that, but pretty good book. But let's see here. Huh. Interesting. I should put that on as background music. Let's see if I can do that. I have a couple of tricks for doing this. So I'm still learning how to really tweak the audio configuration. But I have a couple of tricks up my sleeve. Like if I didn't want to listen to this music right now, or if I was in a live stream talking to people, I might change my settings. Okay, so we can see a hint of whirlpool action. So we're going to switch to hydrogen alpha. Oops, I can't see my mouse. That's weird. Should I, you know, we'll leave it on target for a minute. How do I do that? Want to make it nice and low. Guess all I gotta do is press this button. Whoops, that's a little loud. There we go. Why not? There's this mad scientist I watch on YouTube sometimes, and he's sort of a neurologist. He studies the neurological effects of the coof, but what he does is he got his hands on some batches of the juice, and he was putting it under microscopes to, you know, kind of like look it over. And just for fun, he was playing this like really creepy music in the background. You know, just for kicks, kind of like, you know, not taking himself too seriously, but also to mock all of the, you know, more off the rails conspiracy theory angles. Jupiter, oh, Jupiter, why not? I know you're already playing it. In fact, wait, if you're playing music, I shouldn't play music, because then you'll have two songs playing, so you do you. I'm gonna leave the music on mute for now, to avoid overlap. Plus, your speakers are probably better than hearing me speak over the music. Let's see here. Yeah, we're gonna go to hydrogen now for real. I mean it. Okay, switching to hydrogen. So the way we do this is to get a color photograph in black and white. We use a red filter, green filter, and blue filter. We'll literally take at least one photo in each mode, usually more than one. And then you combine the three colors together to get full color, because it's very weird how it works, but it works. In fact, every color image sensor is actually a black and white sensor with red, blue, and green filters in front of different pixels, and it's pretty interesting how that works. So what we're doing here is we're using the entire sensor real estate for one color at a time, because we are limited, you know, we want to maximize every photon. We don't want to waste any photons. Because the telescope isn't so much about magnification. The primary job of a telescope is to act like a bucket to scoop up photons. Hey, this is not good. Okay, I think it's good now. I didn't like how the HA button wasn't highlighted. So, you know, we have a device mounted to the back of the telescope, and it literally has, like, just like you have a polarizing filter on your regular camera. Instead of putting filters on the front of the telescope lens, we put the filters behind the telescope lens, but right in front of the image sensor on the camera. And by having this set up, we can rotate through them on a carousel. Okay, so I believe we only captured hydrogen for like half of that time. So next time we do hydrogen, we should actually have a brighter shot. But for good measure, I goosed up the gain a little bit to see what happens. Well, let's see. You tell me if the sound stinks, you know, or if I should goose up the volume. I honestly don't know. Like, at this point, I put a lot of work into, like, when I did, like, my first stream with Nerdporial, I was, you know, I already had a pretty decent microphone. I bought it, like, 2 years ago just to kind of, like, practice in case I ever wanted to get into recording or streaming. And, you know, different things of this nature. But, wow, that's dim. What can we do to goose that up? Well, I can goose it up, but it's going to be a mind-numbing wait if I do goose up the brightness on this here. Or did it start cloud? Oh, wait. No, it didn't get cloudy yet. Okay, good. So let's see here. I don't think it got cloudy. But anyway, so yeah, I spent like a day like before the stream. I literally bought this microphone the day before the stream and got the mic stand the day of the stream. And you know, I already did some like tuning and practicing on the other microphone I got, but this was the good one. So you know, I already had a pop filter. I was like, okay, good, this helps. Otherwise you get those popping sounds. I played with the analog knob. I picked this one out because it had a mute button, even though I never used the mute button. I usually just press it on my screen. And like during the second stream we did it for Return of the Jedi, instead of using my webcam directly through Streamlabs, apparently OBS has a virtual webcam feature, and it's cool because you could basically do screen sharing without using screen sharing on the Streamlabs end. So I kind of like wanted to use when they mentioned the raid on Celeste in Return of the Jedi, I opened up the Rogue Squadron level raid on Celeste, although it may not have been abundantly obvious. I was like, oh, you know what, they mentioned Celeste, let's fly in Celeste, you know, and I was able to do that without disrupting the rest of the stream. But right now I'm using the actual streaming feature from OBS, but I swear the virtual webcam feature kind of seems like it might eliminate the need to use it. I mean, it's good to have options, I guess. Cool, good. Okay, the music is at a good level. Because I remember, like, first time I jumped on a stream, I was like, you know, first thing I said, I was like, oh, you know, how do you feel there? I'm like, they asked, how do you feel? I'm like, I'm a little nervous, but I'll roll with it. And then I was like, how's my sound? You know, but I probably sound a little bit like a bass kid. I was like, oh, a little nervous. How's my sound? But, you know, they said it was cool, but I'm always worried. I don't want to, like, not always worried, but I don't want to, like, you know, be louder than the host of the show, and I don't want to be absurdly louder than everyone. In an ideal world, if I can make laws, or well, maybe not laws, but, you know, I mean, if it was up to me, man, everyone would equalize their sound. They would have meetings before the show, and they'd be like, alright, we have equal sound, cool. But, you know, it's all good. Everyone does pretty good. Nobody's much louder than the other guys, so it's cool. But yeah, that's how I did it. So the camera stuff, at the time, I think I didn't have my HDMI adapter yet. So I have one of these video to USB devices made by Ion. They're the company that makes the record players that you hook up to a USB port. And it literally is just USB with, you know, yellow, red, and white hookups on it. Even has video plug. Now that one I didn't want to use it because it's a little unstable. It sometimes causes OBS to crash. I find that low cost video capture devices have always been kind of like sketchy. I think I fixed the issue, however, but the other issue with using that device for video capture was the video signal was interlaced. Basically, anything that's coming to an RCA cable, old broadcast TV. Yeah, I've got to goose up our exposure time here. Video games through that input. You get these little lines going through the screen when you move very quickly, and that's called interlacing. So I found a program that would help to filter out the lines in real time. I was able to basically patch the video into this other program that was a little complex, but you know, it's kind of grainy, kind of dim, and I have this analog video corrector box here that I'm not currently using, but during that stream I was using it to goose up the brightness a little bit to get a little more signal out. However, I gotta say, I had to buy two of these. So this is the first one I bought. This is the second one. Nintendo 64 to HDMI, and this is one of the better upscalers because, you know, not only does it go, you know, it says 4x. Yeah, actually, this is the main reason why. It actually has a switch for 4x3 and 16x9. So I guess, you know, when you first, you know, like when I first bought my other upscaler, this guy here, which I don't know why it's got cables going through it. Wait, is this the better one? This might be the, I'm not sure now. Yeah, I think this is the crappier one. Yeah, so this one here, you know, has HDMI, has connectors on it for video in. But what was happening was it would only give you a widescreen image. It would only stretch it. So, you know, but the benefit is that instead of using the USB video input, I could do my video recording through the Elgato HDMI input. However, that has a delay on it. I found a solution, but bottom line is during that stream when I was messing with the video, I was using something similar to this guy. Now going forward, I'm presently using this guy until I upgrade my Nintendo 64 to do the color mod. But essentially, yeah, OBS is virtual web camera, dude. Like, you can pretty much everything you see right now where I can switch between my screens, you can do all of that. Hey, why is my Nintendo Switch not showing up? You can do all of that with the OBS virtual webcam. So basically when you open up Streamlab, instead of selecting your webcam, your USB webcam, you tell Streamlab that you want to use the OBS virtual camera. And essentially when you're in OBS, you gotta click a button. You gotta click Start Virtual Camera. And basically once you do that, everything that you set up in OBS as your sources, which is, you know, where you switch between video, you can turn, you know, video on and off. Yeah, kind of. I kind of do. I tidied up my desk, however, but, yeah, you know, like, I definitely have to do a little consolidating on it here again. Like, I don't know why I have 2 VCRs. I only need 1 VCR. I think, well, anyway, you know, I had, like, wanted to digitize more of my VHS tapes, but I had to upgrade my hard drive capacity first. But yeah, I mean, you know, honestly, I don't even really, I mean, I use Wi-Fi, but whenever possible, I try to not use Wi-Fi. So, you know, running Ethernet cables everywhere. I got a network switch behind my TV. This one's an 8-port switch because I didn't want to run multiple lines. But in the long run, I'm going to run a dedicated line to my desktop. Unless I did already. But, yeah, you know, you can say I got a lot. I guess you could say that, yeah. I got a lot of wires all over. Yeah, this is caca, man. I mean, like, I can see the whirliness over here, but I'm not sure, you know, if I should goose up the exposure time. Because once again, I said it, like, that was just one picture. This took 4 minutes, 120 seconds is 2 minutes. It took 4 minutes for us to see this picture. And now it'll only take 2 more minutes to see another picture. Now, why we record multiples is, when I'm doing pictures, I'll record like 20 shots of red, and I'll stack them in order to get better contrast. Hey, what up, Nerdporial? Yeah, so we're just doing a little astrophotography. I was just showing Punk Waddle, you know, and, you know, I was testing this out because, you know, quality settings and all of this, but earlier I was taking pictures of M42, the Great Orion Nebula. And we were successful in testing out the plate solving software, which basically allows us to open up a picture that we recorded already, and then we it matches it up against a star map. It'll literally compare the constellations to a star map, and okay, there it is, and it'll overlay a grid. And you can see we got like the diagonal grid for the equatorial axis, and the big fat circle represents M42. And unfortunately, M42 went below the horizon. So had I had more time, I would have, you know, it went from a 30-second or 60-second exposure time on the camera, and we would have had a big fat Orion Nebula going across here. It looks kind of like a seagull. You can even see it right here. It looks like one flock of seagulls. And I got a sick picture of this on my other telescope a long time ago, but this telescope gets a wider field of view, less zoom, but it's much more forgiving in terms of, you know, tracking errors. And for demonstration, what I mean by it's set is, where was M42? It's not here anymore. Yo, but I'm doing this, and I was supposed to finish editing video and upload 2 video tutorials. You know, one of them was actually on reducing sound background noise. Yo, this is a plugin for OBS, and it's really cool. Basically, you sit in a room silently, and you press a button to start recording, and then it makes this red line. And this red line represents all of the background noise in my room. See? And the waves that are underneath that red line are basically mostly reduced so that you don't hear my computer humming along. And so, you know, anyway, so that's one of the tutorials you gotta upload. And then the other one is more like a general OBS primer, but that one I might take a little more time to refine. I should really just work on one thing at a time, because, you know, at this point with the audio background noise reduction, I need to, like, you know, maybe put a thumbnail together and do minor refinement, maybe even re-record one segment. One thing I'm learning is, while observing other people who make video, is they're not afraid to do jump cuts. Like, you'll see people, like, sometimes you'll almost not see it, but if you pay attention, you'll see someone talking mid-sentence and then their face will go like it'll just jump. But it works. It's sort of like Encounter at Farpoint when they're in the holodeck. There's a brief scene where Jordy, Riker, and Data are walking across the trees, and they do a cut. They slip it in there. You almost don't realize it's a separate scene, or that they recorded oh yuck, that they did a separate take. Oh, I'm sorry. Yo, let me know if I'm on the wrong screen, yo. I was not showing you guys the star map. I'm sorry. Let's see, where do I go from here? Yeah, OBS is real cool. So what I screwed up on is I forgot to select my MSI display. So you guys have been staring at the chat this whole time. So we go to MSI display. So yeah, this is ugly. So yeah, plate solving. I'll go back to that because it's really cool. So I used this app. Oh, did it crash? Okay, good, it didn't crash. Yeah, so we use this app. We open up a picture that we saved, and then it draws a grid and circles around it. So essentially, if M42 didn't go behind the horizon, we would have done a longer time exposure on it, and it would have taken up the entire circle right here. And then M43 in a better picture, I could probably find on my Instagram if we really want to see, you know, low-res pictures. But yeah, that's the baby galaxy here, or baby nebula. I guess it's a baby nebula, I don't know. But it gives you details like where its coordinates are. I don't really know half of that. But, you know, yeah, this thing, if I can get plate solving to work correctly, it's supposed to help auto-align my telescope mount. But every time I tested it, I've been met with peril, like lots of weird issues. But getting back to the Whirlpool Galaxy, I think we're gonna go back to luminance filter. We're gonna drop our gain down to 2500 so that we don't get a washed out background. Oh, cool! Mr. Dick Marks is into the house. All right. Yeah, this guy's cool. He's got like he knows some neighborhood cats. I think he's running a cat gang. But no, they're pretty interesting creatures. I mean, like the way he showcases them, they got personality. I mean, same thing with my turtles, man. I mean, like, these aquatic turtles, you'd think they're dumb as a doorknob, but they're smarter than snakes and smarter than fish. But more importantly, my turtles one time went on a hunger strike. One of them did, at least, because I was giving her good shrimp. But yes, okay, the ground is over here, and the Orion Nebula is here, so of course I can no longer take pictures of the M42 Orion Nebula, but earlier I took a lot of pictures in red, green, and blue, and at some point I got to do some processing to combine these separate color channels, and we should have a color image of M42. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can find the picture, and in about 60 seconds we should have more pictures of the whatchamacallit, of that. And actually, can I do plate solving on the Whirlpool Galaxy? Let's do it. While we're waiting for that to process. Alright, so we're gonna exit that. We're gonna go back to our... Oh, we're already here. Okay, what time is it? 12? Okay, so we're gonna go to, I guess, 11:46. When did I take the last picture? No, wait, that's M42. We want Whirlpool. We want... Oh, shoot. Was I taking pictures of it? See, sometimes I forget to start the... Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, of course. We could do yesterday's pictures. Okay, good. Yeah, I was showing, Oh, yeah, and I took sick pictures of the moon today. Yo, these are sick right here. I'll show these real quick. Starry Night. I gotta check that one out. I think I know what you're talking about, but I'll look it up. Yo, so that's a good question, Notorial. You know, I mean, I don't know. I've never... I mean, clearly there's a Streamlabs OBS for a reason, so it might be good. But dude, last week during your Jedi stream, I was able to use the virtual camera feature in OBS. And it worked. I mean, you know, I'm still learning how to do streaming like this. Like, I mean, I've only streamed through YouTube so far on OBS. Otherwise, I've only ever used, you know, Streamlabs by, you know, opening up a link and just joining it. But, and I gotta look up. I don't know the difference. I honestly don't know the difference between Streamlabs OBS and regular OBS. But yeah, so yeah, earlier I took a picture of the moon. It was a slim crescent, and what I did was I goosed up the exposure so that I could see the dark side of the moon more easily, because why not? That just seemed like a cool thing to do. Let's see. So now Whirlpool. Let me see if we could process this. Plate solve. So this takes a little bit of time. This does a little bit of number crunching, checks the star map, and in the meantime, yeah, that's awful. I don't see nothing here, man. I mean, I see a little bit of something actually. Oops. Yeah, you can see like the two sides of the whirlpool, but you know what? We'll goose up the gain. I don't know if the gain setting affects anything after the fact. I mean, during the exposure, but we're gonna try it out, see what happens. It might goose up the signal ratio or something cool like that. But yeah, so we did a video of the moon because what we usually do is, you know, take multiple frames in like a short period of time, and then, you know, stack them together, and there's software that will take away like the crappy parts and allow you to keep only the good parts. So in the end, you'll start off with a blurry crater, and you'll end up with like a clean picture. They have, like, that's the thing, OBS through a smartphone and Wi-Fi. Were you using your webcam, were you using your smartphone as a virtual webcam or something? Like, because I remember a while ago, I was setting up one of my old phones as a surveillance camera for one of my turtles while I was at work, because they were making a lot of escape attempts and I didn't have a webcam to spare. But I mean, I can imagine, you know, there's a lot of ways you get, like, you know, OBS is so versatile. Nothing surprises me. If somebody told me they, you know, did anything with it, I would believe it. Like, so, I mean, yeah, gaming from a phone, using Wi-Fi to relay the video somehow. I can see that happening. Yeah, like Streamlabs, I mean, it was really straightforward. I know a guy who uses it to like talk geopolitics and crap, and he sometimes would say to people, "Oh, I got to use up. I only got like an hour left or something like that." So I guess they have a limit for how much time you can use. I don't know, but you know, there's multiple ways to skin a cat when you're doing this. Like, I see some people use Discord in some capacity to have the streams, but I think that's mainly, I don't know, for audio. You know, I haven't scratched the surface on any of this yet. I can edit video pretty decently, and I don't mean I could like make a nice video edit. I mean, I know how to use the software pretty decently. You know, I think the art form itself is another story. But yeah, streaming wise, I remember it used to be a little harder to set up a stream, so I gotta say, things have really come a long way. These days you could straight up use like virtual webcam instead of a stream, although, I mean, instead of using the streaming option. But yeah, so I started off streaming with this the other day in OBS, and what I did was I went like to output settings, streaming, and I started off with some low setting, and now I kind of went higher than the recommended setting. So I'm at like minimum 5,000, maximum 6,200, and I'm assuming that on your end that it'll automatically lower the quality anyway. So you know, I'm not too worried about, you know, overwhelming any network. In recording mode now, I got the 6 set up right here. Yo, this is what I recorded like a tutorial on, because like I got the 6 recording setup, and you know, I had to go through a lot of trial and error, but I have my multiple audio sources, and the way it's set up, I can record one audio file, one video file with multiple audio tracks, and then when I bring it into the editing software, I can import individual audio tracks. And it's a little convoluted how I'm doing it, but it works. Everything syncs up correctly. You know, there's no, you know, finagling, so it's pretty cool. And how's our plate solving here? Okay, still processing, still number crunching here. But what we do is, what else we got? Let me get, oh, once again, I forgot to switch back to my screen. MSI. Yeah, Marks, you know, I'm just kind of playing with it. You know, it's the easiest way to learn anything is just to kind of like tinker with it. As long as, you know, it's not like a motor vehicle and there's no risk of life and limb. I mean, you know, what do I care if I break my computer? I mean, it's not like I'm taking it apart. I mean, you know, I don't care if I break it then, but, you know, I mean, like, what could go wrong, you know? The biggest thing that can go wrong with screen sharing is like if you got something inappropriate and you start opening up the wrong folders and you're like, oops, you know, I love it. Like I was watching one of these guys, I think alien scientist, and you know, have different guests on, and you know, it's kind of hit or miss his content, but they were talking about anti-gravity, propulsion and crap, and so he has people who will present different experiments and crap, and yeah, so, you know, like, one guy was fumbling. He didn't have anything inappropriate, but he just had random, you know, pictures, like cat memes, and it was kind of like, you know, not super professional. And so they reminded people during future streams, yeah, you know, try to organize your crap. So before doing a stream, I remember, like, okay, I'll take my Boba Fett picture or whatever, put that in a specific folder, make sure that folder is queued up to show people, and that I don't have to go, you know, weaving through my directories to find the wrong thing. So how we roll in astrophotography, oh my god, yeah, I think we got some cloud cover here. Let me see here, I'm gonna switch to the red filter. We lowered our gain to 2500, we'll see what happens. But yeah, so how we roll is, we'll take, let's say I successfully took a picture in like any of these one filters, whether it be red, green, or blue, which are broadband filters, because that's visible light, what we can see. Hydrogen, S2 and O3. Hydrogen alpha is basically ionized hydrogen gas, basically electrically charged hydrogen, similar to what we have in the sun. In fact, it is what we have in the sun. So the beauty of using a hydrogen alpha filter is that you can block all of the light pollution. So street lights used to be high pressure sodium and mercury vapor lights. So you're automatically blocking those spectrums or wavelengths of light. The red, blue, and green, you're blocking all of the blue and all of the green when using the hydrogen filter. You're letting in a little bit of red, because if, let's say this is hydrogen, red includes this much of the spectrum. So what you're doing is you're taking a tiny slice of the red part of the spectrum and you're blocking out the rest of it. So by using a hydrogen filter, if you have light pollution, if you have some haze in your atmosphere, you can potentially block it out. And in this case, it looks like that didn't work. So we're going to go back to hydrogen, but we're now on a 2-minute exposure. And I'm just going to crank it up to maximum and pray that we see something. And because, you know, we're doing a live stream here, I took a shortcut. I went and I doubled the size of the pixels so that we can collect more photons. But yeah, so what we do is, okay, so we get our pictures. Okay, so we're using a hydrogen. We block out our light pollution. But instead of taking one picture, because you're not going to get one good picture ever, because there's just too many things going up against you. What we do is we stack them after we take, let's say, 40 pictures. 40 subframes, as we call them, and we stack them. And this will do two things. One, it'll sort of make it like, I guess, a more concentrated image or something. I mean, that's not the main purpose, but like back in the olden days when we did it with film, I never did it with film, but they would do that. They would take like photo plates or photo film and stack it, and you would get like more contrast. But secondly, when you're doing it digitally, you're getting more dynamic range. So like out of all of the different pictures, they'll all get basically the same rough detail, but in some of them maybe you'll have like more shades of gray, or you have different shades of gray. And by stacking them, you're able to combine like the medium shades of gray with the slightly less medium shades of gray, and before you know it, you start to have like a little bit more shading into the image. And then once you stack the image and you have a higher quality image, it'll still look like crap, but then you could do stuff to it. You could say, okay, well now I want to goose up some of the contrast or whatever the heck. In my case, I think what we do is, okay, we're going to try to do it with the raw image in the meantime. We'll do like a little light processing. We're going to do maybe log X. I really should learn what this crap means. Okay, so now we're going to take the histograms just like Photoshop, and what we can do is we can make the back brighter. We can make the whole thing brighter. I find it interesting, there's this part here that it retained, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, the left side is the bright part and the right side is the dark part. So I just allowed more of the dark pixels in. And what we can do is we can decide that we want to cut out some of the stuff on the left. But as you can see, we lose a lot of information. In fact, is the right side the bright? Okay, I think the right side is the brightest pixel. So what this is telling us is that the majority of the pixels are bright. I mean, are dim. Well, I'm sorry. There's not that many bright pixels over here. Well, let's see. Actually, let's find out. Let's see. I forget what this means. See, like, it would make more sense if I had a real photograph. Well, either way, that's your histogram, and we're kind of just adjusting it to see what we can get out of it. But yeah, Streamlabs OBS, what I love about that one is the abbreviation is SLOBS. You gotta download SLOBS. I gotta install SLOBS. You got SLOBS on my computer, I mean. But the beauty of regular OBS, as far as I know, is that if I'm interacting with someone who's using Streamlabs OBS, I just join it to whatever link they send me. I can still use the virtual camera feature, and then maybe the person running the stream might decide to make my video into full screen. Interestingly, Punkwaddle might know, there's these guys who do a Star Wars channel, Mark's EBN, Echo Base Network, and there's a young man named Tron, or his name is the legendary Tron, nice kid, and he's got like a disability, and I'm kind of envious of his setup in a way, sort of, because like now I'm learning more and more, but I think I just crashed the program. Okay, I'm gonna take when you crash a program or when it gets a little unresponsive, it's good to just take your hands off the controllers for a little bit. But anyway, this Tron dude, like what he would do is he would go to the bathroom, or I don't know, he would get away from his computer, I mean, and he would put like an animation of a wheelchair up on the screen. It would look really cool. It would be like, it would say Discord, and then the wheelchair would have some like stripes, like racing stripes behind it, and it would spin around and stuff. And I'm like, you know, maybe obviously I don't want to have a wheelchair, but I'm like, I don't know what this kid's doing, but that's a cool setup. And at the time I assumed he's got like a software package, like maybe like, you know, for disabilities, people with disabilities to interact with people online, but I'm not sure if he was just using OBS straight up to do that, or if there's a special OBS distribution that is designed for, you know, people like who need those features. But essentially everything that Tron was doing, you could do in OBS. You could just put like recorded, you know, videos in a loop, or, you know, every time you switch your source, it would restart the video, just like when I pull up Trip from Enterprise. I only borrowed this video so I can get the star field in the back. So when I play Nintendo, I can, yeah, you know, I mean, Punkwaddle, I mean, I don't know, every time I've seen his animation, it's really simple stuff, but I'm like, this is off the hook. You know, but yeah, so like, whenever I, you know, play Nintendo, I can have this in the background. I just cover up the guy in the spacesuit, and you know, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I broke it. I'll just reopen the file. Uh-oh. I heard a beeping sound. So, okay, once again, we're in hydrogen. And this is just awful. I mean, once again, like, if we were really patient, we can goose up our exposure time and pray that we see something we like. But, I think with the way weather is right now, I'll pull up the weather and I'll show you a picture that I took while I'm at it of the nebula I mentioned before. Let's see, I usually do Aviation Weather Center. We're gonna find the galaxy. Oh, here we are, yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is the picture I took like a while ago on my Celestron C8, which is like big fat orange telescope. You know, it's like one of these types that is like, in fact, it's like a little, it's weird, it's shorter than my current telescope, but wider. Like the, basically I have a 4-inch lens on this telescope, which is like what your aperture is, how much light you can collect. This orange telescope could collect more photons because it's got an 8-inch aperture, because it's got like basically a bowl-shaped mirror in the back, and it reflects light in a cone shape against another mirror, and then it bounces it into the camera. And so I had to actually do multiple pictures. I think I did like 20 to 40 pictures for each red, blue, and green. I stacked them on their own. In the end, I was able to open up 3 pictures in Photoshop, a red, green, and blue picture. Now in Photoshop, you got your layers, and you got your whatchamacallit, channels. And I never really used channels. All I know is that when exploring Photoshop, if you turn off one of the channels, your picture will look all yellow or all blue or all purple. And didn't know what that meant, but apparently if you get 3 pictures of the same size, you could drag and drop them into the channel layers. So if you have a black and white picture that is supposed to be your red channel, you drag it into the red channel. And because even though I took a black and white picture with a red filter and it looks like it's black and white, what we're really doing is we're telling the camera that we got shades of gray or shades of red. Instead of being black and white, we're really taking a black and red picture. And so we're just measuring the brightness. That's all black and white camera is doing in this case, measuring the brightness. And we're just telling the software that we did this with a red filter. And so it'll substitute white for red, blue, or green. We combine the 3 of them together. We sometimes have to realign them in order to get the, you know, to prevent color fringing. And you can see like we got like what they call luminosity, which is I guess like this glowing crap. And then this over here looks kind of like a dust cloud here. Like it's like a shadow almost blocking the center. And, you know, I might even be able to take the picture I took today after processing it and combine it so that I could fix the middle here, because obviously this is blown out. So to fix that, you actually have to take separate pictures at lower exposure settings, and that was sort of what I was doing today. I decided to focus on taking the lower you know, brightness images first and then adding the brighter images later. But you can see M43, this is the one I showed you in the plate solving image before. M43 is the you know, baby galaxy that was next to M42. And then this is my old telescope. Yeah, this thing was cool. I mean, I still have it. But yo, that's the Celestron C8. This is a vintage beauty here from 1978. Bought it for $200. You get them for about $600 now, but got it for $200. This is my old setup before I made a more permanent enclosure for my laptop, which is really just that plastic tub. And yeah, I now use the plastic tub as an enclosure. And you know, same concept, camera, filter wheel that rotates in order to switch between, you know, different colors, and a guide scope. And you need a larger guide scope on a telescope that has more zoom, so we have a larger guide scope. And yeah, so that's how that works. Oh yeah, and we want to talk about planets. Yeah. See, like this one I never got around doing in color. I was just lucky to get this one on the orange scope. Now, why don't I use the orange scope? Pain in the butt to line. So you got 2 mirrors, and you got these 3 tiny little screws, and you got to turn these 3 screws in order to tilt and pivot the mirror. and sometimes you'll waste multiple nights messing around with it. So I bought a different telescope that didn't require collimation. That's the adjustment that needs to be done, because I wanted something that was a more forgiving telescope. But there are times where I miss using this scope, and so I do hope to use it at some point. But like I said, pain in the butt to do the adjustments. I had to buy a special laser in order to do adjustments indoors, so I'm still learning how to use it. That I don't know how to use it at all. But unlike my current telescope, the orange scope can take like really close pictures like this. My current telescope, I can supplement it, I can add a special lens to it, but when I do, it gets a little unwieldy. Like, you start getting a lot of balancing issues. So, I mean, it's not insurmountable, but these are some of these challenges you got to deal with. But let's see, did we get anything? Okay, so yeah, goosing up the exposure, we got a faint star. Let's see if there's any other target we could chew on while we're in the current setting. We're gonna go and turn on more targets. I'm not gonna limit the magnitude, but this is like a trick to filtering out brightness to see objects that you can't see. I used to have my orange scope set up in the window when I first got it, when I was just learning how to use it, and I was like dying to use it, but I had cloudy nights. It's actually a common affliction when you buy astronomy gear. You get constantly cloudy nights. Like, the bigger the telescope, the more weeks of bad weather you'll get. But allow me to read the chat here. I gotta adjust my setup at some point, but right now I have to lean away from my microphone to see my chat. Haha. Yeah, it's like, it's not, I don't know if it's a super precise, I don't know how precise it is, the laser, but I think I'm not using it precisely, which is why I'm having trouble with it. But it's weird. Basically, you put a laser in place of an eyepiece or in place of a camera, and it bounces off the mirrors, and the laser is supposed to shoot out the front of the lens on the orange telescope and hit the wall, or in fact, it's supposed to hit a target. But the real problem is, like, you gotta have the telescope on some kind of mount or tripod, but I dismounted that telescope, so it's like I tried propping it up on a bunch of boxes, and it was kind of tricky. I'm missing one screw. If I could find that one screw, I could put it onto its original fork mount. But yeah, I just find it interesting, Marks. You got like this entourage of cats. They're like family, and they sort of interact. It's pretty interesting, they have a complex interaction. Sometimes when you see a random cat, it's hard to know what they got going on. Like, I'll hear stories from friends. I remember a friend when he was a kid, he said, "Oh yeah, my cat goes out, he's got a girlfriend out down the block, and stuff." We have one cat that goes in my backyard. He's like an orange fella, looks kind of like Garfield. And he like climbs the fence, sits on the barbecue, and he eats birds. I haven't seen him eat a bird in a while, but it was really cool. He snatched the motherfucker out of the sky, like, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I respect it. Sometimes if I have to deal with mice, man, I think about inviting that dude inside. Yeah, Marks, how many cats are in this extended family? Actually, I think I can give you a count on this. Marks has a channel, by the way, if you want to check it out. But, I think he has like, it's got like a little entourage. Like, I usually see one or two in a video, but like sometimes they'll have like more. Alright, we're gonna go for broke before we close up shop. We're gonna goose up the exposure time to 4 minutes, because it's gonna take 8 minutes for the first picture to come in. So we're gonna just see what happens. We're gonna give it a name, Whirlpool 2P. I mean, we're still gonna look. Oh, bummer, why did I do that? Well, either way, I really want to see the Whirlpool, but that might have been ill-advised what I just did. Well, you know what? in the meantime, we'll see if we can find another target, but not the end of the world if I can't, because I'm pretty sure the map says things aren't going to be so good. See, like, I remember yesterday I was working on this guy here. I might even have pictures of this one here. Ow. And what this program would do is it'll oh yeah, I remember I was taking pictures of this star cluster yesterday. In fact, you know what, this is an easy target, let's do it. And what was happening was it was coming out super blurry and I couldn't figure out why. I was playing with the focus knob and I'm using the motorized focuser, and I just wasn't having a good time. And what basically it came down to was alignment. The telescope was overcompensating for tracking errors, and until I redid the polar alignment, which miraculously only took 5 minutes. Usually that's a pretty long procedure. Usually I gotta I mean, it's not a long procedure. It's much easier than aligning the mirrors onto the orange telescope. But I had to buy in fact, there's a little miniature camera that I mount on the front of my telescope mount. And this miniature camera makes all of the difference in automating the process of polar alignment. Before that, I was able to use this program. This program that I take pictures in would actually let you, it would actually help you do polar alignment. It would actually put a picture of a circle in front of your screen, and you would click on, or you would line it up with the North Star, and this program would tell you okay, good. The program would tell you that it could see the star, then it would tell you to move the mount up by tiny increments, and it would show you across it. It'd be okay, it's lining up. Okay, good, we can see the target here now. So we're going to take this guy here, we're going to move him up to the center. So I'm going to do a little and I'm going to just move my fingers up with the star as I move it. I'm going to bring it down to half-second exposure, goose up our brightness, and I'm going to go lower the speed of the declination. I'm going to go west. Good. Going west has it worked? I don't know. No, we want to go east. We're going to go east. Alright, now we're going east. Hard to port. Warp speed. Alright. Okay, that's about right. And now I'm gonna goose up the brightness. And once again, we're cheating. We cut the resolution in half in order to maximize the brightness or to minimize our exposure time. I haven't been stargazing for too long, but like I say, a couple of years ago, what the hell, how did I get into this? I mean, long ago I was briefly into this before I could afford this hobby. And basically what I did was when I was 14, 15, 16, 17 or something like that, 16, I used a camcorder when I was 15 to point at Jupiter, and I was oh crap, I can see some of the moons. There you go, you see part of the star cluster right there. So we're gonna call this M3X because it's extreme. But no, I realized on a camcorder you can see the moons next to Jupiter. Instead of it being a point of light, you'll see 1 or 2 points of light next to it. But years later, or around the same time, a friend of mine loaned me a telescope, and I learned more about it. I was oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I can see Jupiter, I can see the moons. You could actually see what looks like Jupiter, the swirling clouds, and you'll see 3, 4 dots next to it, the 4 largest moons. And I was this is great, man. But then he took the telescope back because he owned it, fine, and then I think it broke. Something happened, it got thrown into a wall or something like that. Yeah, some funny story. So then recently, a couple of years ago, I decided to get a telescope. I was I think it was 2018, maybe late 2018, mid 2018, and so I'm shopping for a telescope, but I was I don't know what to buy. I'm trying to figure it out. I was gonna buy I went on Reddit. I'm yo guys, I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing that. people like, oh, you don't want to start with that, you're gonna really, you know, this and that. It's like, oh, it's not so easy to take casual photographs, it's a money pit, etc., etc. But I'm like, look, man, I'll spend some money, but I'm willing to, you know, be patient and jury rig the stuff I can't afford. And one day I'm helping a couple of customers at Best Buy buying a printer, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting a telescope, yeah. And they're like, oh, are you? Oh, we got a giant telescope in our garage we're trying to get rid of. I'm like, oh, word? So he goes, I'll talk to my son and see how much. So he goes, he comes back to me, texts me pictures of it, and he goes, $200. I do a little research and say, yeah, why not? There's some chances of that. There could be something wrong with it, but I'll take my chances. And I'll tell you, I thought I was going to get started taking photos a little quicker than I did, but it was still pretty cool. This orange telescope came with, a Nikon adapter, which I have an old Nikon camera, so I was like, okay. First thing I did was, even though I wasn't going to use the Nikon camera on it, I mounted the Nikon camera to it just to look at it, just to admire the fact that I can attach my Nikon camera to this bad boy. So now it looks like we got a clear shot of this star. Yesterday I tried doing this, it was so blurry, it was so shamefully blurry. So now, I don't know, should we do a 15-second or 30-second exposure? But I think there's going to be a big latency, but if the latency isn't bad, let me know if we should do 15 seconds or 30 seconds. Remember, it takes twice as long to get the first photo. But yeah, so, you know, like, yeah, so I get this telescope in, I use it with the stock equipment. In fact, I got pictures of the early days of me using this scope. Because here we are. So remember, you gotta buy a mount for these stupid things, yo. Like, you know, the mount could be more expensive than the scope. Whoops, give me 1 second. I want to make sure that pictures are being saved. Okay, good. So I didn't have a mount. All it came with was this tabletop mount called a fork mount, and you could put it on the table. So I had a literal lawn chair mount or patio chair. You can see my mirrorless Olympus camera mounted to the back of it. And you can see the mirror, you can see how there's like a bowl-shaped mirror, makes a cone, bounces off this little guy, and then straight down the center it hits into the image sensor. So instead of mounting a lens to the camera, the telescope is the lens for the camera, or, you know, in this case you're mounting a camera to the lens because the telescope is so big. And this worked adequately, but I remember one of my first nights was a solar and a lunar eclipse. And I put this thing on top of a stainless steel barbecue table, like on the ledge. And the thing was very bouncy, but I was like, you know, determined to make this work. And I got some pictures, but they were kind of shaky. And it was like 20 degrees outside. And everything's made of aluminum. And like, you touch cold aluminum and your hands become numb. But that picture of the moon from before, it's been a while. Like, I always, you know, when I every time I saw the moon like that, I had to go to work. It was a work night. I had to be up early. I was too tired to use the telescope. Whatever it was, there was different reasons I couldn't do it. But it's been a while since like I last saw the moon like that. And last time I saw, like, when I was doing my first lunar eclipse, I was using the scope in this configuration. I was able to see the dark side of it. But okay, we're gonna zoom in and see if we got, yep, we got pretty close to pinpoint stars. Let's check our temperature. Alright, good, temperature didn't change much. So, reason this is important is because if the temperature changes a lot, the telescope shrinks. And if your telescope shrinks, I gotta get water, you got to readjust your focus again. So that gets really tedious. But when it's so cold like it is tonight, that becomes a non-issue. So that's really cool. But, you know, so like, today was like the first time in a while that I was able to, you know, see the dark side of the moon at the same time with, you know, the shaded side of the moon while looking at the crescent. And at some point I might try to combine the two photographs, but by the time I saw the moon today, it was already on the edge of the horizon. So this would, you know, of course mean the quality was really bad. But let's take a look here. Okay, so we got 11 photographs in red. So normally, look, I can save that part for later. but we can go red, green, blue. So what we usually do is we'll stop and start on green. Well, we have to wait for it to finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to luminance. So what we do is we do red, green, and blue, and we combine them later on. In fact, I think my wallpaper, I hope I don't have anything bad open. Yeah, this picture on my background here is actually like tiled, but you can see that star cluster is supposed to be in the middle over here. And you can see this red giant, or what appears to be a red giant over here. And that red originated as just the red channel in a black and white photo where I combined red, green, and blue filters together in Photoshop. But peppering throughout here, we can see kind of like, looks kind of orangey, yellowish. You know, it's not like my best work, but you know, I was glad it came out clear. Now when I put the remote there, we go, oh, that's rough. It's kind of rough out there, huh? We'll goose up the exposure to 30 seconds, but we'll lower the gain. Yeah, so that was like a mirrorless SLR camera, which is not really an SLR because SLR is a camera with a mirror. A mirrorless camera has no mirror, but it looks like an SLR. And I already owned that camera, so I was able to start with that. But then, you know, I bought some astronomy cameras over the past couple of years, dedicated cameras. I think I have one here. Let me see here. Alrighty, where are you? Alright, here we are. Alright. So, dedicated astronomy cameras, usually they're shaped like a cylinder. And you'll have like a sensor that looks like a rainbow color. Now this one's kind of crooked because I took it apart and I basically didn't want to get dust on it, so I taped the sensor. But this sensor is probably good. I'm not really sure. Either the sensor got overheated or something on this board got overheated. Because what happened was, what we do is on an SLR camera, when it's a hot summer's day, you get a lot of graininess. That's called noise. Okay, let's switch to the red filter again. Or do we want to do hydrogen? Well, then we'll play around with it. So what you do is you have this white thing here that when you apply electrical voltage to this, it gets really cold. And that cools it down. But what's really happening is it's taking the heat from the image sensor, which would normally be like attached to it like that, and it's pumping the heat towards this heat sink and blowing it away. Now in the winter, this easily allows you to go to like -20, -30 degrees Fahrenheit. In the summer, you're lucky to get -15 on a hot day. But either way, by bringing your image sensor to sub-zero temperatures, it reduces the amount of graininess and noise, because what happens is the heat gets detected. Basically, the heat that hits the sensor, the heat that is on the sensor, gets turned into photons. I'm sorry, it gets turned into electrons. Because remember, image sensor takes photons of light, turns them into electricity, it turns it into electrons, and that's how you get, you know, pictures. But if you're able to cool the sensor down, you're able to reduce the heat so that the heat does not get treated like photons. And in the winter, this works very effectively. If I turned off the cooling unit... Oh, speaking of cooling unit, I made a mistake today, I think. Oops. Not a big deal. Should I fix it now? Yeah, I forgot. I don't know why. I wish this would set the default setting. So the cooling unit is set to -0. Oh, no, I want -0. Okay. So, not a big deal. Huh. I think it was already -8 degrees. What do you know? That was quick. So, now this thing is saying it's using 100, and, well, you know, power level goes from 0 to 255. It's at 129. And, yeah, I'd say it's about nearly 50% power on a 12-volt device. And that's going to bring us down to -20 degrees. But already, I mean, we don't see a lot of noise here. We see a gray background. We don't see random noise. So I think even 0 degrees is fine. Also, this sensor on this particular camera is pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty good sensor in general. And if I was using a regular SLR camera, it's 26 degrees outside. I mean, chances are we wouldn't be getting a lot of noise unless the camera was generating a lot of its own heat, which does happen. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today while I test this out. By the way, how is the video quality? Like, I'm sure it's good, but do you see like I noticed like on a lot of channels when people switch between screens, you'll see like blurriness, and I expect to see blurriness. It's not an issue really. I'm just curious if I was able to eliminate the blurriness, because that would be kind of cool. Alrighty, there we go. And let's see, what else do we want to do here? Do we want to make more adjustments here? Because we want to take pictures of this. So what we do is, you know, even when I go to bed, I might very well just fire up a script and be like, computer, fire off pictures, and then I'll go and, regardless of how religious I am or am not, I'll send a prayer anyway that it doesn't rain. Nah, but jokes aside, if I thought it was gonna rain, I might, you know, go outside and put the tarp over it. Let's check. How is our forecast? Oh, okay, good. It's not gonna rain tomorrow. It's gonna rain Sunday, but it'll be cloudy by tomorrow noon. So okay. And I'm afraid to look at the aviation map. Oh yeah, we got some haze overhead. Yeah, I depend on this map to get an idea. So I think we're getting lucky. We got like a little bit of a clearing here, but you know, it's not really ideal. You know, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's gonna get cloudier if it's not cloudy yet. That's my homeboy. That's Londo. I posted a picture of Londo to the Babylon 5 Facebook page, and people were like, he looks more like Veer. Veer is Londo's attaché, diplomatic aide. Yeah, see, I mean, look at that old telescope. I mean, this is like even before I knew what I was doing. This was on a regular color camera. Now I got like a lot of raw data in black and white that I still got to combine in order to make color pictures. I've got a bit of a backlog, but also some of the data I kind of just set it aside. I say, you know what, let's take, you know, get better data and use that, because sometimes the data is just too crappy. Like, I've had nights where I said, okay, I'm off from work. This is the first time I can use my telescope in a while, and I forced myself to use it on a subpar night when it's like really bad outside, but it's semi-clear, and you end up with mediocre photographs. Well, other times you'll have a good night, but you'll be working, you know, and it could be hit or miss. So I made it a priority to rig this guy for remote operation. As you can see, I've been able to use it from the comfort of this room, as opposed to freezing my ass off outside. So you could say that's been a success. But we've also had such low temperatures. Yeah, man, Punk Waddle, get out of here, man. I don't want to leave you up now, but I really appreciate you joining us. And, you know, I'll be doing more of this type of stuff. You know, I'm kind of just learning the ropes. Let's see, so I'm going to go wind down. Yeah, man, Godspeed. And, you know, thanks for joining us, and thank you for, you know, checking it out. And yeah, cool, man. And yo, I hope I get to work on my Gundam model tomorrow. So yeah, just us, Marks. So let's see here. How do I want to do this here? Yeah, so we can do the Python script. What we do is we basically tell it what settings we want for each filter, and then when I'm ready to go to bed, I fire it off. And normally this doesn't work out because my focus is currently at this position, like 19,000 steps out of, let's say, 100,000 steps. So it's like sort of like you're racking the camera in and out away from the lenses. But when you have wild temperature changes, like on a normal night, you go from, let's say, 60 degrees to 50 degrees. You gotta freaking change you gotta readjust the focus every, like, degree. And thank goodness I don't have to do that tonight. But back in the day, I used to have to do this manually. At least I have a motor to do it. But the problem is that there's like a little backlash, so every time you go in and out, the thing shakes side to side. And so what I usually do is I hit plus 500 a couple of times, and then I'll rack it in minus 500 to, you know, eliminate the backlash, and then I'll go in increments of 100, 20, and 5. And then usually when you're racking into the final part, you'll get it in focus, but then you'll overshoot your target and you have to start over again. There is a way to automate this in this program, but there's some kind of like, they don't tell you like what settings you need. You kind of got to fill in some blanks and figure it out to trial and error. And I don't want to waste a night of good imaging on setting up autofocus only to be unsuccessful. I tried it a few times, still learning. One option is just to spend more money. Buy a more expensive motorized focuser that has more precise and repeatable functionality. And there are some options. Although I think that company, they're having a little bit of a supply issue. Some models are in stock, some aren't, but they cost a fortune. I don't even want to talk about the price. Oh hell yeah, man! Yeah, that Bandai stuff, premium Bandai stuff is something else. You know, I was looking at a mass production mobile suit. I don't know if Mark's watches Gundam, but you know, I recommend it. I mean, like, look, I know some people don't like anime. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, anime's gay," and you know, like, look, there's some anime I'm not into. Like, you know, I mean, I used to be more judgmental, but you know, like, One Piece initially didn't appeal to me until I read the synopsis. I have never watched it, but you know, originally I was like, "Oh, this is whack," but now I'm a little more open-minded to it. But what was cool was that one of my first Gundam series was Top Gun in Space, Gundam 0083, and basically these guys are on a ship called the Albion, and it's like kind of like watching Star Trek but with giant robots, or giant piloted robots. But you know, they got their like little like cargo bay / landing bay over here. It's got nuclear jet rocket engines, and you know, it's got like some like technology. They got like a MacGuffin device. In writing, you know, MacGuffin devices are a magical technology that solves a lot of issues. So their MacGuffin device is the Minovsky particle, and Minovsky particles allow the ship to hover in the atmosphere. Man, that's a bad picture. I should just open up a video. And you know, like and you know, it also has other features, like it's part of the fusion reactor technology. It also allows them to jam radar. In fact, that's why in Gundam they use giant robots, because you can't use radar guided missiles. Why am I getting tiny pictures here? Yo, this sucks. They got little yo, these pictures all suck. I should just open up a video file. Whoops. So yeah, that's how they do it. But this particular Gundam series called Gundam 00830083 is like Top Gun in space, and basically there's this, like, you know, two prototype Gundams being tested, and one of them is like maneuverable and, you know, works on ground combat. The other one is kind of bulky and heavily armored, and turns out this is like a nuclear Gundam. Like, it's got a nuclear bazooka on it, and so the premise is like it kind of violates a certain treaty, and they're a little concerned that maybe someone might steal it. I don't know, you know, something might happen in this show. But this nuclear bazooka is weird because it doesn't fire a nuclear warhead. From what I can figure, it detonates the nuclear warhead inside the bazooka and then shoots out a blast of radiation. I could be wrong, but that's what I gleaned from it. or it might just shoot the nuclear core material at the target. So pretty gnarly. I better not turn on the sound. And I own this, okay? I just have a copy on my computer so that I can conveniently watch it. Oh yeah, the Nutcracker song. I know this song. I saw this funny video where this lady was yelling at someone in a store. She was like bitching. She was like, "Oh, wear your mask." And she decides to start dancing for some reason. And like, she was dressed like the Nutcracker. So in my head I'm picturing the Nutcracker song. So I don't know. First time I watched Gundam, one of the first times I watched like good Gundam. I did watch Gundam Wing back in the day, but I don't recommend Gundam Wing. I mean, some people like it. Maybe I'll give it another chance. But this, man, this is where it's at. And apparently the original, so I watched this before the original series. So Gundam is like Star Trek. They got an original series and they have a ship that's like an ugly version of that ship. And I mean, it's still a beautiful ship in its own right, but it's kind of ugly looking. I mean, you know, you just saw like the side by side. I mean, I could just show. I mean, like, it's pretty abundantly clear. Whoops. Where'd you go? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, kind of boxy, kind of sleek. But same concept, obviously the lineage is all there. They both have a mega particle cannon. Now one thing that Gundam, two things that Gundam does wrong or doesn't address, or barely addresses, one, in space, you know, you get osteoporosis basically from being in low gravity. But these ships have a gravity block, a section where you got, you know, a spinning section where you get gravity. None of the schematics show you where the gravity section is, but there is one because they always mention it. Well, they mention it once in a while. And in one of the episodes, when they're in a battle and they're treating injured people, they're treating the injured people into the gravity block because, you know, otherwise your blood will never clot, so you know, you'll bleed out. So they need to treat the injured people in the gravity section. But I've only been able to guess where this mythical gravity block is. And in later Gundam series, they have a ship where they actually have a gravity block on it that you can visibly see. Like, I don't know why I found just a model kit, but you can see it right here. Like, this literally spins around a ship. And they didn't, like, it got up to a point in the show where I'm watching like the late series Double Zeta, and I don't see this happening as often. But like in the beginning of the show, you would always see them, like, you know, play the sinister music, and you see this thing spinning around. So I guess you go down an elevator shaft, and then whenever the ship went into battle, these things would retract, and they would then, of course, be relegated to zero gravity. But, you know, kind of cool. Now, one thing Gundam gets wrong the second issue, aside from the hidden gravity block on the earlier ship, is, like, in space when you accelerate, you can't just slow it down. It's not like driving an airplane or a car. You don't just accelerate, let go of the gas pedal, and slow down. You're going to keep moving forward. So, problem in Gundam is they don't do what they do in the Expanse. In the Expanse, they do tumble and burn. And do I have my Vasanante? I'll be right back. I want to find my... wait a second. Oh, man, I took it downstairs. Oh, let me make sure I got to see something here. I know this song. This is the song from the Home Alone commercial from the 90s. I remember they were advertising Home Alone 2, and they would play dun, 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 dun. And then Kevin would be doing, Macaulay Culkin would be doing his antics, messing with those crooks. Oh, yeah. You can see the cloud covers rolling in because it stopped auto-guiding a while ago. Oh wait, I never engaged it. Ugh. That's one of the reasons the stars didn't come out so clearly. So let's give it another chance. So earlier I clicked on one guide star. By the way, is this good? Okay. This time we're going to use multi-star guiding. It may or may not work. What it does is multi-star FWHM, so full width half minimum. It's some kind of mathematical crap. And essentially, instead of using one star, it'll look at multiple stars changing their position, and then it'll figure out how much to compensate or how much to send corrective pulses. Because, of course, what if a cloud only shows up over here? It's going to make these stars jump around, but these stars won't. So, it tries to figure it out. So, once again, we got 30-second exposure. We're still on the green filter. And I'm going to go and give it a new name. I'm going to call this guide, because it'll remind me that I didn't turn on auto guiding until just now. There we go. Okay. Word. I'm glad I have an opportunity, Marks. If you don't mind me calling you Marks, they call you Dick Marks or Dick. But yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it. I could talk a lot, and it kind of occurred to me like a while ago. I've done like a number of forays in attempting to do this, but usually I would do like a recording, because as a perfectionist or a semi-perfectionist, I would look at the video and I would be like, I'd be like, I don't like the way this sounds, so I'd just say, screw it, scrap it. And I would record something over and over again. And then a couple years ago, I bought a better microphone, played with it, still didn't post anything. And I got this sweet deal, this thing is nice. Anyway, so I couldn't find my Rocinante from The Expanse, but in The Expanse, the Rocinante looks like a rocket ship. And the way the floor plan is set up is if the engines are here, every floor is like a skyscraper from top to bottom, or from back to front is like the bottom floor of a skyscraper is the back, and so on. And that's because when the rocket is running, you got a floor to stand on, basically, with some, gravity, acceleration gravity. And what was my point here? So the Rocinante. So of course, problem is that when the Rocinante is accelerating, it's under, say, 1g of acceleration. For every second it's under 1g of acceleration, it goes faster and faster. So it might start off going at like 5 meters a second, but then an hour later it's going at 50 meters a second, 100 meters a second. So let's say it spends 6 hours accelerating. Now it's got to make sure halfway in its journey, it's got to turn around, tumble, and accelerate the engines to slow down. Now if it uses 2g's of acceleration instead of 1, it could slow down quicker than it accelerated. But either way, you're either going to have to spend the same amount of time with the same amount of engine power, running in reverse before you could come to a stop, or you're going to have to put more power in and really just strain the bodies of the people on board. So Gundam doesn't do this. I mean, Gundam doesn't totally pretend that, things stop. They do keep coasting. So I thought about doing my own fan edit of Gundam, where every time a mobile suit is going forward, I would take the video and play it in reverse. And then I would do a mirror image, so it would go, and it would look like the engines are running to slow it down. So I don't know, I might do that just for fun. But I get it. It doesn't look as cool if everybody had to go into battle turning around and slowing down before fighting. And they do a pretty good job of covering up the lack of the missing physics, I guess you could say. But it is something that, after watching The Expanse, I've noticed. Yeah, dude, there are times where the stars become more visible, and I mean, what do you think, Marks? Do you say that maybe those occasions when the stars are more visible in the city, would you say that maybe that happens more often in the winter time? Because that's generally been my experience, whereas the most, worst times I've experienced would be in the summertime on a muggy or humid night. Between the haze will reflect, I guess, or refract or bounce around of the, glowing street lights. Oh god. Okay, So, you know, it makes it harder to see things with the naked eye. And with a telescope, it means you pick up more background haze, which, by the way, this gray background here, easy to process in post-processing. So actually, we'd rather have a gray background and see more stars than have a black background and fewer stars, because it's harder to bring those dim stars into view than it is to simply take the background and redesignate it as black. So yeah, that error message was because this program wanted to be a runt. I don't know why, but whenever I set this program to Fahrenheit, see, I used to keep it only in Celsius, but you know, I use freedom units on my day-to-day life. So I tried setting it to Celsius, Fahrenheit instead of Celsius, and it worked for a while. But then yesterday I started noticing these .NET framework errors. So to fix it, I would just close the program and reopen it. But it basically means I go back to running it in Celsius again to prevent that inconvenience. But you know, I mean, I don't want to do that. Like, I mean, I'm trying to learn how to think in Celsius. I really am, but I mean, I barely have a concept. Basically, all I know about Celsius is that 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 0 are the same thing. Great, cool. Beyond that, I'm lost. Like, I kind of have a general idea, like with computers, if you're running at 70 degrees Celsius, things are running a little bit on the hot side. If you're running 100 degrees Celsius, you got a problem. My 3D printer runs at 200 degrees Celsius. Apparently, you touch that nozzle, you're not touching a 200 degree nozzle. You're touching a fucking 400 or 500 degree nozzle. So, yeah, that's no joke. That's dangerous. Yeah, man, freedom units. But no, I get it. Celsius is a scientific unit. It works. Yeah, like, I'll give you an example. Where did I put it? Yes, do I have it? Yeah. Like, whenever possible, like, I get like printer papers, like 8.5 by 11. But whenever I can, I'll use the centimeter side of a ruler. I'll, you know, like if I'm if I'm counterfeiting money. No, I'm kidding. I don't do that. But if I was one of these people who did that, I would measure the bills in, you know, in like centimeters. But jokes aside, like one time I made a novelty Dracula dollar bill when I was a teenager, and like basically I did everything in centimeters. And anytime I'm doing a print project, unless the computer is automatically converting it for me, the minute I gotta get hands-on and measure crap, I like using the centimeters, because you know every centimeter is 10 millimeters. And I could do tens, you know, until the cows come home. But this 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, you know, like things start to get a little weird. 4 inches and 3/16. It's like, come on, man. Like, you know, you know, I like to use freedom units because I'm used to them. And for temperature, it works. But there are times where I really don't mind using these. Now, you know, when it comes to miles, it gets a little trickier. Like, although I think in feet, I've been able to train my mind to think in terms of metric units when it comes to length. But once we start talking about miles and kilometers, I generally think of kilometers as the smaller unit. So, you know, I mean, like, doesn't really gleam much, but I think it's like, what, 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer, because that's easy. But it's like 2,000 yards to a mile. But I forget what the in-between is. But it doesn't matter. Freedom units are of the free world until Europe wants to take over. You know, Russia, if they want to, you know, roll over us and make us use metric, great. But they probably can't. By the way, they're kind of screwed, yo. These Russians, like, from what I can figure, they get a little bit more resistance than they expected. Unless they did expect it. And then the economic stuff is affecting them. Now, one angle, my friend says that, you know, the army, they'll get hungry and they'll surrender. I don't know if he's being an optimist or what. Yeah, I probably shouldn't delve too deeply into this topic here because, you know, I mean, I like covering trivial bull crap so that I can avoid dealing with the censorship. But, you know, like, originally, like, a Ukrainian guy I watched on another channel, American truck driver, Ukrainian, he believed that you know, Putin would like to get Kiev, but if he couldn't get Kiev, he would settle with the eastern side. Now, if he stopped at the Donbass region, might not be so bad. But if he takes more of it up to the mountains, now you're kind of stomping on ground that doesn't contain just Russian people, you know? But, you know, from a strategic point of view, it's like, okay, you got this big flat land area. So it's like the idea is that not only do you want to cover, you know, plug that up because it's easy for an army to march over that, but, you know, and my friend, he goes, oh, Putin's just trying to get a legacy. And that might be a factor. But also the other factor is the demographics, which is kind of interesting. Basically, apparently when you're coming out of the tail end of the Soviet Union and you're going into the post-collapse era, people are not motivated to have a lot of babies. So you now have, like, the army is at a stage right now where they got the most young people they're gonna have for a while. And like 10, 15, 20 years, they're gonna have a bunch of old timers in their army. So it's like sort of like, if you want to do anything crazy, if they want to do anything crazy, this is basically the time to do it. Now, my friend has some interesting points, but I don't know how much, like, he's got a pretty reasonable attitude on things, but he does sometimes fall victim of watching too much mainstream content, and I mean that, you know, on any side of the spectrum. Just if it's on a TV set. You know, I'm trying to strike a balance. What I find interesting is that the popular thing to do right now is to just automatically, and I mean, once again, like, you don't have to like or agree with Russia, but I think people should at least have a voice to have a discussion. I saw this really disgusting video on an Australian channel where they were having like a discussion forum, and this guy stands up. He's an Australian accent, but he explains he's an Australian Russian, or Russian Australian, and basically he goes and expresses his point of view, and then like some whiny crybaby in the audience like, boo, shut him up, and ultimately the guy in the suit, who is the commentator who said, oh, let's hear him out, responds and goes, you know what, I'm not gonna address your question because your question makes me feel very uncomfortable. And then he gives some, you know, sort of emotionally based response about dying and crap. But it's like, dude, come on, like, you know, like, let the guy speak, have an argument, tell him he's wrong, but like, let him speak and tell him he's wrong, instead of just saying, no, you can't speak and you're wrong. Like, it's just so stupid, you know. What a mess. But yeah, the base 10, man, that stuff is off the hook. Well, it's pretty good, you know. So yeah, I mean, I've taken like 23 red pictures. I don't know what I should do now. I think we should crank it up. I think we should go into hydrogen mode again. Because what we can do is, this is cool. So here's what we can do. Normally you would do red, green, and blue, and you will get colorful stars like my background picture on my desktop. However, you add what they call a luminance layer, and that's basically just a clear filter that lets, you know, all of the colors in at the same time. And you might do this where you take red, green, and blue filter images of the moon. It might come out a little bit dim, so you slap on a luminance layer to bump up the brightness a bit. And there's probably other reasons you use it. But instead of using the luminance filter, which is like a really broad filter, I mean, you're going to be picking up the background light, you're going to pick up the haze, you're going to pick up the street lights, you're going to pick up everything. You switch to hydrogen, that cuts out a ton of the like light pollution. Instead of covering like all of the visible spectrum, which is like, let's say, I don't know, 600 nanometers, 800 nanometers, from like 400 to 800, whatever it is, you cover like a 4 nanometer wide sliver of the spectrum, so you're really blocking out a lot of undesirable light. So normally, if you were doing like narrowband imaging, hydrogen alpha would be like a ruby red, S2 would be ionized sulfur, which would be like a yellowish color, I think, and O3 is like sort of like a greenish blue, mainly blue, but kind of a blue-green, I guess. So because we're in narrowband, we've got a very faint image here. So we need to crank up our exposure value. So we're going to go up to 60 seconds. We're going to bump up the gain of 3000, and whatever we get, we're going to use that as our luminance layer. The question is, do I take a gamble and set it to 120 seconds? I'm not sure, but I would do a gamble. But yes, there's my 3D print of the Orville. And it's the ship from that show, the Orville. I'm looking for the mouse here. Yeah, Orville. So, it's like just a Star Trek knockoff. Looks kind of like the Starship Voyager on the front. Business on the front, party on the back. And then, like I remember first time I watched the show a few times, it's like they do this cheesy sound effect where it's like when they're about to go to warp quantum speed. It goes whoop, boom, boom. But anyway, so I 3D printed this in 2 parts. Like basically I printed it on the flatbed from the middle up. Then I printed this part from the middle up as well on the flatbed. Glued them together. Sprayed some, model primer on it that is made for model kits. And then kind of just attempted to paint it. Honestly, it came out like crap. But either way, I was just experimenting. This was like, I think literally one of the first times I used enamel paint. And I kind of was trying to lap it on thick in order to cover up the seam lines on this side here. So I probably should just buy some like modeling cement. My plan now is probably just to buff it out, make it rough texture again, re-prime it, or actually put some, sand it up, put some cement over here, prime it, and then repaint it, and hopefully it'll come out nicer. And then this time I won't use silver, maybe I'll use gray. Frankly, the color of the primer looks pretty close to the color of the ship, but I would still use like a gray paint on it in order to get the right texture. And like main thing about 3D printing, I was never a fan of it because I don't like how you get visible lines on it. If you could look at it closely, I could put it under a microscope if you want. Can we put it under a microscope? Alright, this microscope might crash my computer, so I'm afraid to use it. But I got like 2 webcams on my computer and a microscope. It's not really a real microscope, but there's one of these setups. Like sometimes I think putting 2 webcams into OBS causes some issues sometimes, and using the microscope sometimes causes issues. So yeah. Yo, dude, the Orville really is, dude. You watch the Orville sometime. I mean, it feels like Star Trek. Like it feels a bit like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Overall, but of course it's more modern. It's got a little more action, but obviously the cracking jokes more often than Star Trek. But yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's pretty good, I just remembered I gotta plug this back in. I'll do it tomorrow. What I want to do is I want to test out my Nintendo on here while we're taking the hydrogen layer. Let's see if this works. And you know what? I got an idea. MSI display, copy, Control C, go to Nintendo. I'm gonna do something insane here. I'm gonna do something really insane. I'm gonna go overkill. Okay, so we're just focusing on a star cluster. So we're gonna take that star cluster and slap it in the corner over here. Then, to really make a mess of things, because I want to show all of the technical stats. Because, you gotta have... Oh, yeah, look at that. We got the little bar. Actually, this could be of some utility for me. See, this is how cool OBS is. Okay, that picture came out really dim. We're gonna have to bump it up to a 2-minute exposure. That means 4 minutes before we see the first photograph, but we're gonna have to do it anyway. Oh, by the way, is the guide scope still running? Okay, good. Yeah, so there's probably different ways. Like I could shrink this video image. Oh wait, and bummer. Actually, I gotta do something here. And, you know, I see like a lot of gamers. Like I was watching this gentleman before named like something like Zhao, really cool guy. I mentioned him earlier. And yeah, I mean, I could hook that Nintendo 64 up to the computer right now, Marks. I mean, I'm gonna just try the Nintendo Switch, however, but we could totally hook up the Nintendo 64. In fact, I recorded me playing Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, but I want to like play around with a few adjustments on that video. So yeah, this is Mario Maker, and basically you can, you know, it's easy to make the level on your touch screen. Whoops, uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. Alright, that's it, we're just gonna... So one thing I love about Mario Maker is it lets you download or play online copies of other people's creations. And so my favorite part about this game are the levels that look like the original Mario 1. It's like having Mario 1 but with all new levels in it. So it's really cool, and you know, you could just, you know, like I whipped, this is like the first level I actually made, but I whipped this up like in like a half hour or something like that. And you know, just like learning how to do this, but my plan is like to troll people, because that's what other people do, is they troll each other. Like, in fact, I gotta play a level someone sent me. They said that it was one of their first levels, and basically in the troll level what they do is they'll put like invisible boxes in places, so when you jump over a pit you'll bump into an invisible box and die. See how painful that is? Yeah! Go get him! See how cool that is? Oh! Oh wait, no, I gotta use my ninja star. No! Son of a... But yeah, so, you know, see, I'm trolling myself here. But luckily I don't have any goal to actually beat this, but like there's this thing in this game called the Endless Challenge, and I hope this level saves itself, because I'm gonna back out of it. How do I get out of here? Yeah, I don't know how to get out of here. Oh wait, I remember. You hit the start button. Then we can go back to Course World, is it? And then I think we click on Endless Challenge. So I'm not going to play through a lot of this. I'm just going to show this cool example about this game. Like, you know, I bought this on a whim. And, yeah, let's see. Did it do it yet? I think it's got to do one exposure still. I'm not really sure. I don't know how long that ticker's been running. I think it's actually generating a real photo now. But yeah, so basically, like, you just go... Yeah, so you know it, yeah. So I haven't watched Angry Video Game Nerd in a while, but I remember he did a video, one of the first videos of his I saw was Top Gun. And I actually managed to successfully... Oh god, this is a troll level if I've ever seen one. So, one of the first Angry Video Nerd videos I saw was... Yeah, I'm trying to find a workaround here. I'm screwed. Was him playing Top Gun, and man, he made it look hard. You know what, real quick. I'm gonna just... This is cool, yo. They actually sold these. Now, I bought this hoping it would work on my phone. it kind of did, but major latency, so it didn't really work on my phone. Uh-oh, I think the battery's dead on this. Let me see, maybe I can resync it. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna let me switch controllers here, unless there's a trick to it. Oh well, I'll figure that out later. Anyway, I would feel more at home playing with that controller right now, but we're gonna try this evil level here. This is messed up. This is totally messed up. See, like, I was just watching Dog Journalist and he was saying how people who play video games, their soul leaves their body or some crap. Well, he didn't say it exactly like that. And I sort of get what he's saying, but I also think it's a little hyperbolic. Don't tell me I'm joining some satanic cabal bullshit. I mean, maybe it is, but no, I think it's just Japanese people making money off us. Now, is there an element of mind control? Maybe not in this game itself, but video screens? Yeah, I mean, holy cow. Some of the things I learned that were interesting. Yo, I'm not tolerating this shit. I'm not tolerating this crap. I'll consider putting this on my favorites list, just so I can revisit it. But I don't think I'm interested in playing this level here. More importantly, how do I make my gamepad work? Do I have to grab another one? I think I left the gamepad downstairs. I'm not really sure. Whatever, let's see if we can make do with what we got here. Alright, so real quick, I think my last official activity before I get ready for bed is I'm going to show you something even more brutal or similarly brutal to what we just did. Yeah, that's right, there is something more painful. There is a form of punishment that is comparable. Oh no, I didn't mean to play this. What did I do? I can't hit the home button now. Alright, hit the home button here. I want to go to NES. So I normally don't need to play official emulators, but I have to show you something really funny. So I don't know if you remember Super Mario Bros. 2 for the original Nintendo, but it turned out it was actually a game adaptation originally called Doki Doki Panic, and the story goes something like this. The American game tester there we go. The original game tester, that's a countdown for the photograph over there. The American game tester would unpack the games, play them, and one day he plays the... Oh my god, how do I get this controller to work, yo? There's definitely a trick to doing this. Maybe if I hit the buttons in the right order. Oh yeah, okay, good. Left, right, A. Alright, good, we got it. So anyway, he plays this game and he thought it was frustrating. He goes, there was the review people, I don't know, maybe wrote a review, and he goes, this game is not fun, it's punishment. And he goes, you know, time and time again, this game makes you take a leap of faith, and time again, you die. And basically, turned out that the original Mario 2 that they received in Japan, but not here, looks like this. And By the way, I'm setting it for 300-second time exposure, which means it'll take 10 minutes to see the first shot, but this will be the last photo I take most likely, and then I will probably rig it for automation. But anyway, so this game is the original one, as opposed to the Mario 2 that we did end up getting, which was an adaptation of Doki Doki Panic, which was a fantastic game, a fun game in its own right. See, you just saw it right there. You saw Mario died. He picked up a mushroom. Why did he die? Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, dude, this is the real Mario 2. So, basically, this real Mario 2 is effed up. So, right off the bat, oh, see, one, I don't even know if I can get that mushroom. Okay, oh god, look at that, I already got screwed. Thank goodness that this emulator lets you rewind. Uh-oh. Wait. I did it wrong, but... Uh-oh. Okay. Good. Go away, Mr. Duck that looks like a turtle. Like right off the bat, like I've done this before, but for some reason I'm having a real challenge here. Like imagine playing this with like, you know, no lives. Imagine playing this like where you had to like actually imagine having no ability to take snapshots, no ability to save your progress. Okay, so this is where it gets funny. So I'm gonna go to one of these boxes. This right here is a poison mushroom. If I take it, Mario loses his power up, and if I take it again, I die. And then you got the piranha plant. I believe none of these are shortcuts. And like, there's just constant traps in this game. Like right here, I'm gonna probably bump into MC Hammer. See, look at that bullshit. Look at that. How messed up is this? I'm not even sure if there's anything useful here. No, there's nothing useful here. If I jump over that gap, I'll probably just die. Oh, what? See, like, this game leaves you with so little to go on in terms of faith that it's easier to just, like, assume that everything is out to get you. Because everything is out to get you in this game. Like, that pipe may or may not contain a shortcut, but chances are it contains a death trap. Okay, to my surprise, there is not a death trap in this room. But if you think they're gonna give you any freebies in here, you are mistaken. Nah, there's not gonna be any hidden fire flower. Nah, they don't care about you. But hey, at least the level is over, right? Actually, it is over. Okay, I thought there was gonna be a hole in the ground over there. So that's a shame. I could have gotten me a 5,000 score. But that's why basically they were worried that the American audience was gonna hate Mario after playing this game. So they created, you know, they revised Doki Doki Panic. Originally, Doki Doki Panic was made for something like Japanese Expo. Like I think it was made for Hitachi or some other Japanese company like Fujitsu. And it was supposed to be showcasing some crap. I don't know. It was supposed to be themed after the convention, whatever they were selling. And so, luckily, Nintendo, I think, owned the rights to the game, but the company, whatever company it was, Fujitsu or Hitachi, they owned the characters in the game. So, in other words, Nintendo was allowed to use this. See, look at that. What is that bullshit? What is that? Like, they're out to get you, dude. Like, this is like no joke, this game. I beat this game basically because I kept using rewind and snapshotting. Oh. I don't care if I'm cheating, this game is a pain in the butt anyway. Oh yeah, and there's actually, like, I don't know if I did it yet, but in this game there's like a warp zone, and instead of the warp zone letting you skip ahead like a bunch of levels, it brings you back to the beginning of the game. I think you get to like the 3rd level, you find a hidden warp pipe that you gotta, you know, really, you know, like go over the top to find, and then it brings you to the back. Now, to the beginning of the game. Now, one benefit to doing it this way is it gives the player an opportunity to practice more, and it gives them a chance to maybe pick up additional lives because they could collect additional coins. So for like your overachieving Japanese you know, game enthusiast, that might actually prove to be useful to them. But to an American who just wants to, quote, beat the game, this would not be so desirable to them, especially if they had limited time. So yeah, you get the idea. See how difficult this game is? I mean, granted, I'm not the best Mario player, but I mean, I could feel the anxiety, and I'm not even playing it for keeps. Okay, that was just sloppy. That was double sloppy. Oh, I just remembered something. I gotta test something out. So normally I use a splitter, and I'm gonna go and switch my monitor to HDMI 2 because my Nintendo is hooked up to both my video capture board and to my monitor. And sure enough, I think there is, I'm trying to see if it's hard to split my eyes. 222, 221, 220, 217, 215. Yes, this monitor is behind because what OBS is recording has a couple of second delay. Oh, that sucks. This is known. So actually it's kind of a miracle I didn't have a hard time playing just now. I wonder if I could jump over that. Oh, well, looks like trying to jump over it, I only got a 2,000. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. Okay. ...2009. Yo, I'll tell you, Marks, before I go, yeah, the original Xbox, I have one of those. I got it a little bit later than, you know, when it was popular, but by the time I got it, I got one of the heavily modified types, so I went and modified one as per some instructions. And back in the day, like 07, 08, 09, that was the way to play, like, you know, old Xbox was the way to play old Nintendo games, actually. It was a very good multi-purpose box. But anyway, so we can see the star cluster a little better here. In fact, this night's been one of the better nights I've had in a while as far as astronomy goes. I'm still, you know, this is all pixelated because I'm using 2x2 binning, and that's because what it does is we're using half the resolution, so we get more photons per pixel. So you know, maybe what I'll do is I'll set like a longer exposure and use 1x1 binning, or better yet, longer exposure, shorter exposure, but we'll use the luminance filter because I can always remap it later on or something. So let's start with like 7.5, or do we want to do 9 seconds? I would do 9 seconds. But yeah, apparently like that Mario game just now, that was sold or offered under on Super Nintendo it was called the Lost Level, and on the Super Nintendo version they upgraded the graphics a bit, but in the Nintendo emulator version, or the Nintendo has their official emulator where you know, you pay like an initial cost and they let you play them on demand basically on your Nintendo Switch, like a download basically. You know, they had the same levels now. I mean, in the emulators that you play on bootleg hardware, it should be available too, you know. But I can't believe I didn't find it up until relatively recently. I mean, I was totally unaware of this until I watched one of these documentaries. Okay, so as you can see, we're using like a luminance filter, which would normally pick up a lot of light pollution, but now we're using, oh wait, I never changed it. Okay, we're gonna go 1x1. That'll reduce the pixel size. But yeah, and also yeah, emulators on a smartphone is not half bad. That's why I bought this controller. I really wanted to do you know, emulators on you know, I wanted to play Nintendo on my phone with a Nintendo controller. Because you can't, I mean, even though I have a Nintendo Switch, I don't always want to bring it. I'm always carrying my phone, so it seemed logical. But like the lag time was just horrific. Like it was unplayable. So yeah, now we got the narrowband filter, but I think we're gonna start getting a little cloud cover. It's kind of working, but you can see like a lot of correction going on here. So what do we do? So we're going to do a 30-second exposure, and then I'm going to potentially automate this. So I think we're going to leave the high resolution on this time, because I really only used the low resolution mode in order to you know, benefit the stream, you know, because we don't want to wait 5 minutes for one picture. You saw how long it took. I mean, we're literally pointing the telescope at a patch of sky where you can't see anything, even with, you know, a telescope sometimes, even with light amplification, all the light amplification optics, you might see something then, you know, like night vision, but other than that, you can't see anything. And we're leaving the shutter open, soaking in the photons, hoping we see something like this. But I look at this with my own eyes, I might see this one bright star, but I'm not going to see any of this without a telescope. And even with you know, sometimes you'll get, like, if you're in the, you know, in Pennsylvania, upstate, you'll use special astronomy binoculars that have the job of actually concentrating the light. But this, you can imagine how this would look in color, right? I mean, like, that would look pretty cool in color. In fact, I don't remember if that's the picture I have on my desktop wallpaper. I hate to redo the same picture over again. But we're gonna actually do a couple of things. We're gonna go to 47. We were on 11 megapixel. We're gonna go to 47 megapixel mode. And then we're gonna go and we'll goose it up a little bit, and then we're gonna check out auto guiding, and we're gonna see if we can improve it. I don't think there's much I can improve it with, but it depends. If we get some clouds rolling in, yeah, see, like, I might be better off, like, picking a single star like that one. It's got a nice clean point. We can get our auto guiding, so now this one star, if it moves up and down, it'll compensate. The clouds might throw it off a little bit, but as you can see, when the clouds prevent it from seeing the stars, it has to compensate a lot more because it deviates a lot. But you can see this red line here. Red line's been pretty good. So this red line is the result of me doing good polar alignment a few hours ago. Like yesterday, I didn't do the polar alignment. I had a lot of problems. Now, all it has to do is compensate for the automatic east to west, because it's trying to, you know, cancel out the Earth's rotation. It does a pretty good job, but sometimes it's going too quick or too slow. Maybe my balancing is a little bit off. Maybe I need to grease my bearings. So really, all of the corrective pulses have happened on the whoops, my mistake, have happened on the right the right ascension axis, which, let me see if I can pull up my surveillance camera. I'm not sure if I can do that, but I really should set that up. Like, maybe I can find out the IP address of my camera. This thing claims I have 49 devices on my network. I mean, I might have a couple of computers, but I guess it's like, what, TV, smart speaker, 2 wireless access points, 2 light switches. I guess that would do it. Yeah. Oh, they're not all wired. I see the way I have it hooked up. Anyway, but still, oh shoot, some of the virtual machines are counted as network devices. I definitely plan on upgrading this software soon, but wireless router setup, and I'm trying to find the name of my camera. I probably shouldn't be showing these numbers on the public. Oh good, there's a website for this camera. Oh good, I can see my camera. Okay, I can show you my camera. I can worry about this later. So yeah, so basically the way this mount is set up is, let's say the target was starting off like over, trying to see here. So as we're going from east to west, I'm trying to think, what does that look like if I go east? Okay, east to west. So if you can conceptualize east to west, what the mount would do is it'll start here, and then it'll move slowly and slowly like that, but it's at a 40-degree angle because Polaris is at a 40-degree angle because that's our latitude. It corresponds to our latitude. And so, as a further example to drive the point home, whoops. Okay, so we're looking at over my head, but really the center of the telescope, that part that's at a 40-degree angle, is pointing at Polaris. And if you had an analog clock with the 24-hour arm, Polaris would actually be moving in a tight circle at the same speed as the hours arm on a 24-hour clock. Maybe not the same exact position because, of course, you know, angles being angles, but you get the idea. So what the mount has to do is it has to move at this rate at all times, wherever it's pointing, at whatever object it's pointing. And if it's in the southern sky, it's got to be able to follow that same motion, but through here, because of course, you know, remember the southern hemisphere, if I was standing on the South Pole, I'd be looking directly overhead at this thing here. If I was standing on the North Pole, I would look directly overhead at a 90-degree angle, and I'd be looking at this star overhead. But because I'm a little bit south, New York, 42-degree angle. So, whoops, let's recenter it. So anyway, that's why the telescope is set up all funny like that. And yeah, you know, I mean, like this part here also pivots. That's going north to south. They call it declination. This here from east to west is called right ascension. So right ascension from east to west, that's what we're looking at when we look at the guiding. We're looking at this here is blue for right ascension, and what it looks like it's doing is, it says guide east. So I guess if this is east, this is west. So it looks like either my balancing is off or the motor isn't going fast enough. So periodically it has to push it a little quicker. It's got to go up, go more west, go more west. And if it didn't do this, the object I'm tracking would leave a little bit of motion blur that would gradually pile up as we're, you know, tracking a target. But because my polar alignment is on the nose and I'm using a wide field view, it doesn't have to do a lot of, does not have to take a lot of corrective action on the declination, which is good, because that would just compound matters since we already are dealing with weather and, you know, sky changes, all of that crap. So actually what we can do is we could try to set this up here so that we get, what, maybe we want to do 60 seconds here. I'm not sure, but yeah, I say let's do 60 seconds on our luminance filter. So we'll tell the automatic thingamajig 60 seconds on luminance. Then we'll tell it to do like 2 minutes on red. And I don't know if this is overkill, but if it's not overkill, then we can just go boom, boom, boom. And then whether I want to bump the gain up to 3000 will be determined by what we see here. And then we gotta say we want to do a number of frames per filter. We want to do it like, say, 7 times, so we get 70 shots, which probably is overkill because this is just a star cluster. It's not like anything complex. Whereas like earlier when we were looking at Orion Nebula, which is a relatively easy target to observe, that one required us to, you know, really get lots and lots of separate shots so that we can, you know, really get better contrast. And this is the Whirlpool Galaxy from earlier. I might be able to finagle pointing at it and getting a long exposure, but I don't know, it came out very faintly when I tried before. Now maybe it's a little later in the night, maybe we'll have better luck. Oh yeah, you know, I mean, it is a lot you can do on an Android smartphone too. Like, you know, I mean, like, I got, like, I used to pick up garbage from my job when we would recycle, like, old computer stuff, like Apple Bluetooth keyboards. I picked up a couple of those in my travels. I sync it up with my phone, and then I got a nice little portable keyboard. So at work, if I'm sitting down at a desk now, I could wedge this between my monitor and my, you know, desk, my phone, and then I could, like, you know, have like my little Bluetooth keyboard on the side. I could type on chat rooms or whatever I want, or if I'm doing my own personal writing, and then I could toss it aside. When real work comes up, I can go, okay, it's crunch time, do my job. But if there's little downtime, I could do this. And, you know, if I, like, you know, lived in a van, like, you know, I imagine you could do a whole lot of things depending on how you want to roll. I mean, you know, you could hook up, like, back in the day, people might try to hook up a hard drive. Now you can hook up a USB storage device, a flash drive up to your phone. So, there's a lot of, like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff you can do. Yeah, so you see how small the star cluster looks from here. We might be able to increase the exposure time and see more of it. But I'm not really sure, you know, if I've done this one before. I don't want to waste my own, you know, I'd rather pick a different target if I already seen it. Is that the same target? What do we think here? Is that literally the same target? Let me see something. Yeah, I want to make sure I don't have anything in my wallpaper list that's inappropriate. Nah, I don't see anything bad here, but I'm playing it safe. Not taking any chances here. Yeah, I wish it doesn't tell me the name of the picture I'm currently using. I think there's like a hack for Windows that lets you see this information, but for now, we'll leave it alone. I'll let it keep taking pictures of this target. And if I can't find another target, I should probably stick with this target. It's probably a good, safe target to work on. You know, Whirlpool Galaxy's in a weird spot. See, at least this star cluster has the virtue of being directly overhead. These other targets have the virtue of being, you know, a little bit lower, but they're working their way up, so they will be overhead. So like M92 looks very interesting. Looks like a very densely packed object, but looks a little bit on the small side. The Great Star Cluster in Hercules from the 90s TV show with Kevin Sorbo. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know, they had a funny song. Let's see here. Rose Cluster. It looks a little bit on the southern sky. I might be blocked by a tree anyway, so probably not worth trying on that one. But the vast majority of the Milky Way galaxy has already, like, come and gone. You're gonna see, like, a shit ton of stars if I hit the rewind button. Or maybe not? Yeah, there we go. See that? That's like the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. We're like somewhere in the Sagittarius arm or the Orion arm, you know, depending on who you ask. They kind of revised that information in the past few years as they got more data on where everything is located. But yeah, you know, like, so we're looking at the side of the galaxy from within one of the arms of the galaxy at the other arms on the galaxy. You can see much more of it in the southern hemisphere. But as we progress through the night, we lose it, then parts of it comes back, and then the sun comes up. And if we were looking at the sky, that would be like what would happen. So no bueno. as we go through different seasons, you'll get different angles. Yeah, I used to like see that show every Saturday. I must have been like 10, and like I forget, like I'd be bored as hell on a Saturday or something. It wasn't that boring. At least it was Saturday. So if I'm remembering correctly, Saturday was cool because you didn't have to go to school on Sunday, so that was cool. In fact, today's my Saturday, tomorrow's my Sunday because I go back to work on Sunday. So tomorrow I'll be depressed because it'll be my last day off. But I'd be sitting there on Saturday, kind of bored, and then they'd be like, on Channel 11, they'd be like, action-packed, they play some electric guitar, and you're like, well, it's gonna be action-packed, it must be good. And yeah, shit was pretty good, you know, it was a good time slot. And you know, like, that guy went up against all of the mythological creatures that I never read about. One-Eyed Willie, or I think it was called Cyclops. Goliath, was it? I don't know, he kicked his ass, whoever he was. Swing on the spiral. Swing on the spiral. I feel like that's a reference to something. Umbrella Galaxy. Yo, I bet that looks mad sick. I bet it's a pain in the ass to take a picture of this one. See, a lot of these galaxies would be better suited for my orange telescope. But the thing was, if everything wasn't adjusted just right, the orange telescope would be very unforgiving. You could waste a night worth of photographs that you can't use when using that scope. But at the same time, these narrow targets, you know, I have this software set up to form a square that represents my current camera and telescope. But if I was to use this camera and with my orange telescope, this square would be smaller to represent more zoom. Yep, yeah, around 2-3 p.m. I think my mom was working at that time. She worked as a receptionist at a public access TV station, so it would just be us boys chilling at home, and whoa, that looks cool. Yeah. What is that called? Okay, remember the name. If I forget, remind me. Blow Dryer Galaxy. Blow Dryer Galaxy. So that's magnitude 9. Okay, now it's probably gonna be a pain in the ass to photograph that one. Blow dryer, because basically the lower the number, the brighter the object is, and this object has a 9 instead of an 8. But on the other hand, it's in a patch of sky that might be more forgiving. However, I'll have less pointing time at it, so you know that might not be the best target to go to bed with. And I want to pick a target, make some popcorn, watch some anime or some crap, watch some Macross 7. Hydra and Cerberus. Hail Hydra, yeah, I know him. Sort of. Now, but I can imagine, I haven't read a lot of Greek mythology, but a while ago I started reading books or listening to audiobooks, to be honest. Oh, that's a bright one, yo, that's bright and it's clear. Yo, we're going for it. Pinwheel Galaxy for the win. Yeah. So, like I said, I already got a picture of this one, I believe. M3 I already got. So we're not going to waste time gathering data. In fact, what happened was, I think last year, around this time of the year, I took these pictures of this star cluster. Then during the summer when I was working from home, I was like, oh, I got some old data I could process. And I processed it, and I got the picture on my desktop. But now we can do the pinwheel. So we're going to let the thing slew into the target. We're going to try to see if we can see it in the field of view on the guide camera. Yeah, I don't see anything here. Oh well. Doesn't mean we can't work with what we got. Thank you, Mox. Yeah, Blow Dry Galaxy looked really cool, but we're gonna try the Pinwheel mainly because it's got the virtue of being relatively more visible. Now, only issue is, let me see here. Do we want to do 2-second exposures or 1-second exposures? Let's see. If we do 1-second exposure, we're definitely gonna have like a lot of like brightness issues to contend with. So I'd say we're gonna take a gamble here. We're gonna stick with this guide star because it's got a nice pointy FWHM thing going on, but if we lose the target, we're screwed. I'm tempted to pick one of these brighter stars. Maybe we do like more regular updates. Nah, that won't work. Or maybe we could do like 1.5 seconds. That could work. Okay, we're gonna do 1.5 seconds. Alright, target locked. Now, this bar will get to the 2-minute mark, and then we will hopefully see some evidence of the pinwheel. Yeah, this is my power supply box. So it's been tracking the temperature for hours, maybe like a day. And I guess this is the daytime, and then this is the nighttime creeping down. And apparently it's about time I redo my focus. Yeah, with that, we're at -3. But good thing is that when things get so ungodly cold outside, you get to a point where like, you know, you're not going to benefit from like goosing up your focus a whole lot. But we're going to take a gamble here. We're going to crank it back by 10 steps and pray that we're not going too far. Okay, Pinwheel Galaxy is in the tracking here. Now, let's see here. 158, 159. Okay, what do we got? All right, good. I see something here. Unless that's my previous target, and that is my previous target, so we actually don't know if we got the Pinwheel Galaxy in view or not. So, what should I do? I want to take care of some business downstairs, so I could either leave this running just so you can see the result, because like I said, it's no sweat off my back. I can always hit the stop button remotely from my phone, so it's not a big deal. I keep the stream running for like an extra 10 minutes just so we can see if the Pinwheel Galaxy shows up. If it does, then we know we got something, and then I'll leave this automatically blasting off photographs when I go to bed. Or I could wait an extra minute. I could wait 1 minute. I guess it wouldn't kill me to wait 1 minute. I just want to see if this bombs or not. Let's see what happens. Wow, 3 hours, holy cow. I haven't drank 1 glass of water since I started this. I don't know where my water is. Oh, there it is. Well, let's give it a minute. 9 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What the hell? I see nothing. Not even a hint of something. Is anything out there? Hello, hello? Maybe I should do a plate solving image. So that object is kind of overhead too. So if I can see this target, I can, you know, take a... I could definitely, yeah, this would be a cool target, but I have a feeling this is one of those funny targets. So in astrophotography, you sometimes encounter, many times encounter cool targets like these whirly galaxies. In fact, I wasn't even centered on the galaxy apparently. I'm kind of on off center here. But you sometimes encounter these targets that take like 40 hours, 20 hours of cumulative time, 18 hours usually. So that means that between all of the filters, you'll spend like 4 hours or 5 hours per filter. And maybe you'll spread it across a couple of different nights. Whereas with those star clusters, like the one we were looking at, you know, you can get one night's worth of data and you're good to go because it's really just stars. But when you start dealing with gaseous nebulae and crap like that, it starts to get like a pain in the butt. Like even this picture of MF3, there's like a number of these overly bright stars, so I might go back to MF3 and just goose everything up to like a ridiculously high number and take my chances. Oh, you know what my mistake was? Because it's the pinwheel galaxy, I should have put the binning up to 2x2 pixels. Oh, that was a mistake. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to 11 megapixel mode. Then we're going to kill it. We're going to bring it down to 5 megapixel mode by doubling the pixel size. And we're going to see what happens. Oh, that's interesting. The music stopped. Sound check, 1, 2. Yeah, I see what happened here. When I switched between my display and back, oh, I see now, it's just the labeling. Okay, good. We still got music. Alrighty. Ow. Okay, a little on the bright side here, huh? Did go a little overkill on that one. Alright, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, counting quicker does not make it count quicker. I think we got some cloud cover rolling in. No? We're still good? Yeah, I don't even see a hint of a pinwheel galaxy here at all. See, at least with the Whirlpool galaxy we saw something, huh? Has a tiny little star cluster. This one we can't even see much of. The blow dryer looks really cool, but I have a feeling that one's going to be even more difficult to capture. What about M53? What's over here? Nah, it's a tiny little thing too. Screw it, I give up. I'm going back to MF3. I'm gonna recenter the target, lock it on, get our settings and parameters in place, and call it a night. Well, let's hope the target is roughly on target. Yeah, so we're going back to the other star cluster. We're gonna just, because we already know what we gotta do. We can rig for automation and get it, leave the computer running, let it chug along, and we're good to go. Alrighty. Let's see, we're gonna go west a little bit, about do you remember if I just click the north button or the south button? Whatever, it doesn't matter. We don't have to be exactly on point here. We just need to have it in the neighborhood, the ballpark. So I just pressed. That did nothing. Alright, that's gonna do it. Now we can just double check if our focus is sharp. Actually, whoops, I'm already gonna jump the gun here. We're gonna go back to 47 megapixel, regular pixel size, no fancy business. Well, actually quite the opposite of fancy business. We'll do 1 second exposures in case we get a little cloud cover. Lock the target. and then we could make this little, like, X will point to that the target, like little X, like a little pyramid. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to do that. But seriously, it's like a little, to me, I treat this like a little arrow. It points wherever I put like a little, it's almost like a little cup holder for the object. I'm objectifying star clusters, Marks. What do you think about that? Is that offensive? We'll close this in case it crashes the computer. Looks like I closed the other program. Oh, that's a bummer. I want to open that again. Okay. Whoops. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm sure I want to exit. What happened to that program? Oh, here it is. I had it open the whole time. Okay, that's okay. Alright. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Our target is right here. We're probably gonna do fine with this at this level of blurriness, I hope. So we would do 60 seconds on the luminance filter, 3000. So the real question is, what will 2 minutes look like in red, green, and blue? And another question, do we want to really go for broke? We can just tell the camera to blast off pictures of it in hydrogen, but those exposures will take longer, so we wouldn't get any color data really. I think we're going to stick with this for now. Yeah, I don't want to make too many deviations, I'll confuse myself. Well, Mr. Marks, thank you for joining us tonight. You have a good one. Thanks for joining us. I'm about to step away and leave this to automation here. I'm waiting about 28 seconds. Alrighty, have a good night. I'm hereby ending the stream. Computer, stop streaming.